Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords channel and podcast, where today we have got some reinforcements from the Skyport Barrack Just Play. Reinforcements to help us fight the dirty elves. We're going to be doing a little chat about lists and their approach to list building with KO. But before we do, let's get to know the guys a bit better and have a little chat about the news and stuff. So, there's a lot of people to introduce once. So, I'll start with Max, because everyone, you know who Max is. That'll do. Go, Pat.
Hello.
Sorry, Max. That's the best intro you get today.
Yeah.
And then who should I do next? Let's do Tom. Tom.
Hi, how's it going?
Welcome aboard. You are our destruction bro for tonight.
I am. Yes.
Our Bundo whale biter.
More than you'll know, mate.
How are you, Tom?
Yeah, really good. I'm actually quite excited about talking about something other than destruction, because that's what I get tagged on Twitter. So
yeah,
nice to talk about some stunty guys.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We all do love the stunty guys. And moving on down to the just below me there, we have Ritchie. Welcome to the show, Ritchie.
Hello, everyone.
Just play. How are you, Ritchie?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you, and thank you so much for having me on. I was very excited to see there was a dedicated, channel to talk about Kharadron Overlords, since it is my favorite army. So I can't wait to get chatting about it and share some tidbits and learn some stuff from you guys too.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can learn from you as well. So
let's hope so. Hopefully.
And last but not least, in the bottom right of your screen here, we have Mr. James Tinsdale.
Hi, nice to see everybody. It's good to be here, isn't it? And I like Ritchie. I'm very in for a dedicated KO channel.
I think we need more dedicated channels. Like there should be dedicated.
Agreed. I could support that more. If anything, I'd have one for each barrack. And then specifically have barrack people for that barrack. And that would be it. And then if you wanted news from that barrack, you'd have to go to that Skyport and listen.
And would you head up Barrack now then?
No, but I would help Brock as much as I could.
Barrack now 10 views, Barrack Zilfin 100k views. Yeah.
Hey, look, Barrack Nar's the home of the science people, okay?
Yeah. Do you want to share everyone your t-shirt as well?
I'm the only one who came on with the KO t-shirt, so
yeah, we don't have
I've got a stunty guy. I've got a stunty guy.
Yeah, not the same. I have actually just ordered a Brock one as well. So
yeah, I have a Dwarden belly under my t-shirt, but I'm not going to show.
I have that as well. That's why you have to do the lean forward, isn't it? So you look like you're hiding it the best you can.
And hello to everyone in the chat as well. We've got Jay Durfu, Andreas, BD Davies as well. Hi to all of you. There isn't really news, is there?
Well, we'll get hopefully a lot of news next week.
Monday is the news.
With a full week of reveals. I bet we'll see a lot of Soulblight and maybe Broken Realms news on Monday. Mm-hmm. And maybe on Saturday some news about the new edition of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Well, it's just been
Warhammer Fest on Saturday, isn't it? So.
Or new Space Marines, right? So
yeah, or new Primaris.
I think you've been pretty hopeful there, guys. Pretty hopeful.
Well, I mean, there must be a
carrying a sword.
So new KO.
Yeah. No, it would be cool.
Maybe one miniature that we can use in KO and over the armies.
Stop making KO miniatures that aren't KO, right?
Yeah, but it's with a white beard, and a big axe. That's the one I want.
Yeah. But no, there's no. I mean, the only real news is the article today, at least since our last show, which doesn't really say anything. It's just a roundup of what's happened so far.
The Broken Realms roundup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As saying that, well,
so I don't do lore, right? What has the Duard? I embarrassingly don't do lore. I'd love to. I don't make time to read books or whatever anymore. So, what has Duarden's role been in Broken Realms so far?
Well,
Nothing.
it's mostly been KO. It's mostly been
Yeah,
KO, actually,
mostly
which is good
KO.
for the show. There hasn't been
A bit
any
of fire
mention.
snares.
There was a little mention of Dispossessed at the beginning, because they when Marathi attacked Anvilgard and took that over, there was some Ironworld Arsenal guys. So I assume they're Duarden. There could have been some humans as well. They sort of went and got to there's a cog fort outside, and so then they were like charging in. You know, that was like full steam ahead, shooting a load of stuff until Marathi herself attacked it.
Right.
That's the only non-KO. What did the Fire Slayers do, Max? I can't remember.
Well, they had some war schools in the last book, so I bet there's some little story excuse for that in there.
Okay.
But on the
sure
2+ tough videos, he didn't mention, and I didn't read the book.
It must.
I only consume his videos because that's like I'm not going to buy a full.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
You know what? I need to do that, but the problem for me is, I think, what if I've missed something? You know, what if he's decided not to say something? I'm like a bad completionist, so it just stops me just like picking up, you know, a book at some point to have a read because I'm like, oh no, what I need to know if it happened, you know.
And he does not cover everything because he doesn't want to spoil like the book. He still
does
wants
the
people
major
to read
plot
the book.
points.
So he does the major stuff, but it's still like I might even read the Be'lakor book because there's like mentioning of KO stuff and then what I believe is Gromindal, people say is Grugny in the end, that little dwarf that scares Be'lakor away. So yeah, I might read through that last chapter.
The KO stuff has been there's been two things. The first thing was when Neferata was trying to destroy a realm gate or whatever that was what she was doing, was it? Basically, she went
They
into
saved
Shimon.
the realm of Shimon from being suffocated in death magic.
Yeah.
With their heroic sacrifice down in the dark. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
That's it. There we go.
Because then she lives, doesn't she? So the Admiral lives, and she's able to take Eleanor in the pub at the tavern. So Eleanor only learns of it because of her sacrifice.
Yeah, and doesn't she reappear also in the?
She's in the latest
in the latest book. The Admiral.
They are in Be'lakor.
Yeah. The latest book basically Be'lakor attacks. What's the name of the city?
Vindicarum.
Vindicarum on top of the volcano mountain, whatever it is. And they're being slaughtered, and then the KO come in and save the day.
Yes,
I bet you guys.
That's what KO do.
Yeah.
You know, the safest thing we can say is we've done more than destruction and all this, haven't we? So
so far. Anyway,
I mean, Godric's still en route to some weird city with everyone.
Yeah,
like they're still walking. It's like the Lord of the Rings film. There's stuff happening in battles, and then it switches, and it's just Frodo and Sam wandering off in Mordor, like for another 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
Honestly, every book I've opened, right, and I've been like, oh yeah, Broken Realms, yeah, so excited, yeah, and then you read a little bit, and you're like, there's nothing here for me, and then I just wait for the next one, and the next one comes out, I'm like, oh yeah, Broken Realms 2, yeah, so excited, yeah, open up again, oh, there's nothing here for me, and like genuinely, by this point, I'm just a battered wife. Like I'm waiting for 4. Gonna open up number 4. Nothing happens. So I'm like, right, well, I'll be absolutely gutted if nothing happens to destruction. I mean, what is Kragnos? Like, if he's an elf, I think we're all just dying. Like, people talking about this Knothy thing, and I'm like, oh come on, like, give me something, anything. I'd take a grot at this point, just anything.
Well, that was one of the interesting things, actually, which maybe I'm reading too much into it, but in the Warhammer community article from this evening, I thought it strange that they say what is Kragnos rather than who is Kragnos.
Well, he is a god or a celestial being, or what is he? Is he a god beast or?
Well, maybe
apparently he's the guy from Beastgrave, like the god that was buried underneath that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So
we'll see.
But maybe it's all a misdirection, and Kragnos isn't the name of a character; it refers to something else, like Necroquake isn't a name of a character. Like it's what happens because they've all the books have been a name of a character. So maybe it's not. I don't know. I think it probably is just the name of a character. But...
Yeah.
But are we sure that Kragnos is the last book?
Yes, they said that in the article. That is the one thing they did say, I think.
So no Gromrindal Broken Realms book.
Although, because I'm saying that because
people
someone
at
shared a
CW,
picture.
you're missing major sales here.
Someone shared a picture in a WhatsApp chat, and they had underlined a bit saying it was the final book, and then something else. But then when I went on the article, I couldn't see that bit of text that they'd underlined. So unless it's from a different article,
Martin Orlando did that.
Yeah. So maybe that's from a different article, but then I couldn't see a different article.
I don't know.
Or an older one.
Because they deleted it. Games Workshop.
Like Cursed City.
So I don't know. Okay. Well, that's the news then. That's probably the quickest news section we've ever done. That's cool.
Yeah.
Not much happening. That's it.
I mean, there's a lot of rumors going on for AOS 3, but let's not jump into that rabbit hole.
You guys talk about the new Sylvaneth model?
No.
Is that news? Like,
we don't do that here.
We talk about
that's
the
too close to elves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that still technically an elf? Is it? It's forbidden.
Yeah. I don't know.
Kind of.
It's an insect, isn't it? So, or he's got lice. He's got lice.
He's got the weird
Good
stuff on it. Like he's like supposed to float through, I don't know, the woods, the undergrowth. How does he do that with that thing on his head? Like, how does he not get just stuck in branches and entangled with his coat? Yeah, just
too much going on that model, isn't there? I think.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's a cool pose, and I like that they get something new for those people who play tree people. But it's just,
yeah, it's like,
I mean,
this
you can
model,
pick that.
it's really good. We'll put all this on the top, and then we'll put all this on the base as well. It's like,
I mean, the base you can always change, and the top
Yeah,
stuff, just like with all elves, just take the hat off or the head off, whatever you prefer. Stupid cow helmets and whatever they have.
Yeah.
Take it off and put something else on.
Yeah.
Hobby.
Okay.
Wow.
So, I mean, if that's the news, let's get to know you guys a bit better. So, my first question for you is, what exactly is Just Play to you guys? Because it seems to me it's several different things. So, first and foremost, what is it?
Ritchie?
yeah, I guess I'm probably gonna have the most different answer, right? So it's the store that I own and run, basically. So it's my livelihood. So I guess which come from, a love of gaming, right? Me and Ian, when we opened the shop together, it was because we started playing some sort of game together. Like it was actually Gates of Antares, which is a science fiction war game made by Rick Priestley. It was like he made 40K. This is his new vision, and it's a fine game, but it's not Warhammer, so no one plays it. And like instead of just like buying some models in a figure case, it sort of escalated into a lot more, like an entire shop and a new job for me and whatnot. So yeah, it's great, but from that, it was all about, making a great place to play in Liverpool, which at that time we felt there wasn't. So, yeah, and then we've met the likes of Tom, James, and a ton of other people through that. So,
because it's also effectively a team as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like for Age of Sigmar, yes, and I think because that rolls down so much because it's the game that I love, so it's a little bit more at the forefront. Compared to some other things, actually Team Just Play really started in X-Wing. Those guys were out, doing really, really well. There was tons of them. They go to so many events. When X-Wing was in its like massive boom, where 500 player events everywhere. They were out representing us in the shirts you will have seen. And that's where it all really started from. Like lots of us bought Team Just Play shirts at that point, Magic the Gathering guys who were going to things. All sorts of games, Guild Ball, we were doing all sorts. But obviously from you guys and the lads here, it's become Age of Sigmar, and that's certainly recently where the team has been the most successful as well. So yeah.
I think for don't want to speak for Jim, but Jim brought me into Just Play. We used to play in Liverpool Games Workshop. And so I live in Bolton, so I'm 30, 40 miles away. But I'd be in Liverpool all the time. So it was a case of like, I'll bring my stuff and we'll go play in the local GW. And it just didn't really work out for us. We were just playing against ourselves. We weren't getting any better. So Jim discovered that opposite his old house was Just Play. So we went down for a couple of games and went to a tournament. And then, just went from there. We just kind of got, got into the team and, just kind of spiraled from there, really.
Cool. Indoctrinated into the cult.
Very much so. Very much so, yeah. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
At this point, I think Ritchie's a bit of a Pied Piper. So, if he tells us to kill something, we're at him.
As long as that thing is elves, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a team goes, is there like a selection process, or is it just more of like anyone that wants to be in the team can? Is it like a community, or is it?
No, not at all. Anyone can join in. It's more the guys who come down Thursday nights, whatever nights of the week, and play just Sigmar together as a group. That's all it's about. We don't exclude no one. It's actually like quite a tough thing to manage in some ways, because obviously some people are more successful than others, and some people want different things out of the game than others. But ultimately, we all want to go and do things together. So, I guess, for example, recently, me and Jim played on Team Keen and Brotherhood. For on a ridiculously competitive event. That was however many years ago it was now with the pandemic and whatnot. But, we played on a super team, and that wasn't bred from anything dodgy, really. It was like, we, at that time, me and Jim were the ones going to all the tournaments, right? We were always at them, there'd be some other people along, and it's grown to be a lot more people coming along. But at the time, we knew we wanted to play with some other people. We fancied doing some team events, Team England, etc. So we were talking to Laurie and Steve a lot, and we said, when something comes up, we'll do something together, And then it was 6. So then, yes, we went and found some good people to play with. But now, this year, I'm like, what are we going to do? We're going to play as a club, because there's so many more of us. And we'd booked to go to Warhammer World to their team events last year, which obviously we cancelled. And I think we were taking 12 of us, but we split into, 3 different teams, and I led a team, Jim led a team, Ian was leading a team, and we were all just spreading the love around, really. So like to involve everybody. It's all for the best. So
so it's more of a case of it's a community and a friendship group, and you just give yourselves a name, which obviously is just the name of the shop.
It's not new, is it? It's something that has been done for such a long time. Listened to an interview with 40k chap called Neil Kerr the other day. He's like the head judge of the ETC, a really influential guy in 40k, and he was telling his story, and his was bred from his point of view, at least, him starting that entire type of thing at wargaming tournaments. They were doing it first with some team, I don't know their names, and everyone's seen that and wanted to get involved and wanted to go to events. And he sort of said that was a big turning point for wargaming and how much fun and the camaraderie that went along with it. So it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
You guys play. Obviously, you guys have put something together with the Aethercast guys, and you guys are all over the show, aren't you?
Well, I wouldn't say we're all over the show, but I mean,
location-wise, right? You don't.
Right,
yeah.
So so that's. It makes doing things a bit more complicated, really, because Kron's not here because he's at a tournament at the moment.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So, but when Aethercast first started, Max wasn't involved. It was me, Kron, and Hayden Holmes. So there was myself in the UK, Kron in Australia, and Hayden was in New Zealand, and we had another guy called Dan because originally it was just the guys that were the admins on the Facebook group. So there was another guy called Dan who was living in Texas at the time, but he never really made it onto the show because of kids and stuff. And then through various changes and, people's real life circumstances, and, we've recruited Max, who's in Germany, and we've still got Cronra Hayden had to sort of stop playing for a while and stuff. But yeah, it's always been very international for Aethercast.
And you're there cheering your man on now, obviously in Brizz. Am I right? I've been following on Twitter how they're getting along and that. He's doing pretty well, isn't he? So
yeah,
I don't even know, to be honest.
Is he awake? We should have mentioned it in the news, actually. Really, he's 2-1 at the moment. He lost his second game, which is a shame.
Well, shame
he's
on him.
trying a slightly different list to what he normally runs. So I don't know if that's had any impact on it or.
You say too many Arcanauts.
Too many Arcanauts. He's got less than some of the lists we're going to look at in a bit.
He's not got enough.
Actually, I think he's got
like that. Some tiny things I thought I would have done differently. When you're in the real deep looking at it, but it looks solid to me. So
yeah, it's a cool list. So I don't know whether it's just that one game so far was I can't even remember who it was against.
He's beat Deepkin twice.
He beat Deepkin twice, and
which is a hard. I've never beat Deepkin, so he's doing something sweet there. He lost to. Oh, did he lose to? Can't think. It'll come to me.
Probably easy just to check, isn't it? Just get your phone up and read it.
Fantastically prepared as always.
I'm sorry, I'm springing this out. I was just Twitter's the one thing I'm on, the most. So.
Yeah.
You guys are just new to the old Twitter, are you?
Yes, new as in 2 days or something.
I don't
so
know.
new that I can't even find my own tweets. Well, I say my own tweets.
Hey,
the Aethercast account.
It is an absolute head wrecker. I wake up to 50 notifications. I'm like, what? Why am I tagged? What's this got to do with me? It's at some point someone mentioned the model I painted, and it's right.
Yeah.
I leave all the organizational thing to Lee. He's doing a great job. He's doing all the design and slides and everything, and I'm just here to give my
man. I love I love the thumbnails and everything, man. It looks great.
Yeah, that's Lee. He does.
I can't actually find it.
Really looks sweet.
I can't actually find the tweets. But so I can't remember who we lost against. But no, I don't know whether it's because he's trying a new list that he's not quite so used to playing, or whether it was just unlucky with the way it went and stuff. Because he tabled the opponent. I remember that he tabled the opponent, but lost on points.
That was right.
So
classic.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, classic KO. So
Flesh Eater Courts, heavy.
Oh yes, that was it. Flesh Eater Courts. Yeah. Con doesn't have much luck against Flesh Eater Courts for some reason.
They're all right against us though, right? They're super fast. They got loads of teleporting, loads of ways to move if you're playing Blister Skin and that. I think they're all right. They fall over a bit, but if you don't take a unit of flayers down, they start rezzing them or something. That can be a pretty miserable.
That's what I was about to say. Start bringing stuff
get
back.
Get rid of the heroes, and then it's easy from there on.
Yeah. Kill the heroes.
Yeah.
And they all fly. So it's weird, for me, because there's loads of things that we're really good against them at, but I also think they're pretty good against us in some ways. So
the summoning can screw you over if they start appearing behind you on the left, on the right, and then you don't have enough units to take care of everything.
I guess it's the fast, aren't they? Right, and that does get us. So
yeah. So and then. You mentioned, Tom, about the tournaments and stuff. So obviously that's another thing that Just Play is that you're essentially TOs as well.
Ritchie's a TO. We're just the ones that mess it up for him by rolling dice and making him keep score and stuff. So, but we do 1 days all the time. Well, pandemic, before that. But we do 1 days every month, and there's two days. Is that right, Ritchie?
Yeah, up and down. Yeah, depending on scheduling. But we'd like to try and do 1 or 2 bigger ones. And but it'll be a lot different now. You know, we announced today that we've doubled our gaming space in store. We hired a whole other floor. So yeah, we've got a lot more space. We can do bigger tournaments. We run a bunch of stuff, and we come in quite like heavy-handed, ham-fisted. You know, with the tournament scene, really. You know, wasn't the greatest reception because me and Ian are quite. We want to do something. We sort of make it happen for ourselves, right? You know, if I want to play a game and there's no one playing it, I just find people to play it, you know, make it happen, you know, we're, you know, quite proactive. So yeah, we come in like heavy-handed in the scene to start with, like voicing our opinions on tournaments and whatnot. And, you know, I'd like to think at least we, you know, back it up a little bit into our own things as well. So yeah, I enjoyed the tournament side of things. Obviously organising them, it's good fun.
Yeah, I was going to mention that actually. The phrase I was going to use was you ruffled a few feathers.
Yeah.
I just realised actually we're getting a bit of an echo.
From yourself?
I'm not sure.
My room is my room is quite echoey. It's like empty. It's an office I've just built, so it's not got all the home comforts in yet. So
it wasn't too bad. So we'll carry on and see how it is. In fact, it seems to have gone now.
Yeah.
So cool. That's fixed that then. Yeah. So you ruffled a few feathers, I think, when you come on the scene. And I wasn't on Twitter back then, and I think it was mostly on Twitter and stuff. But it seemed to come from a fact of you come from 40k. You were playing 40k quite a lot, weren't you?
No. I was playing nothing really. Magic the Gathering, I guess, was the last game I was playing before that. Yeah. I would just say that we are not new to playing in gaming tournaments, you know, and so I guess that's why we have, you know, opinion on a lot of these things. So yeah.
I'm trying to remember back because you talked about it on your podcast, because that's one of the other things that Just Play is you were running a podcast for a while as well, which seems to have been taken over by YouTube now. But,
it's just we never got around to uploading a lot of that stuff onto, you know, the podcast as well. But yeah, it was mostly the podcast, I would say, where we attracted some flack, ruffle some feathers. You said it quite right. So
yeah, well, that's what I was trying to, because I remember you discussing it on there, and that was what I'm trying to remember back to how you just sort of described it. But it seemed to come from the perspective of you had a vision of how you thought things should be, and you weren't afraid to just say that, and to basically not worry about, well, this is the way people do it, so we have to do it that way.
Yeah. So
the question is do you take the same approach to list building and armies?
So personally, yes, I'd like to think so. I at least like to go through the whole like process myself. Like I will quite try and avoid taking like that early stuff in. Like I'm not in very many WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. I like to like look up, you know, like, okay, perfect example. I don't read any spoilers. I don't see what everyone else posts. I get the book, I read it, I come up with some stuff, and then I'm like, right, what's everyone doing? You know, it's nice to know like if you sort of get close to the mark or not. And then but equally, like I have absolutely no problem in just like net listing anything. You know, again, come from a Magic the Gathering background. There's a lot of people in that game, particularly there's professionals. There's a lot of people out spending a hell of a lot more time than I'm ever going to do about it. And you know, I'm an older guy, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, or I've always have as much time. So I think you can spend your time quite well sometimes. You know, if just grabbing something and taking a look. So. No, I think sometimes we get labelled a little bit of being, you know, like a bit of a boring sort of net lister bunch. You know, I think that's been said about us at times, but I would say behind the scenes, yeah, sometimes you just end up playing the same thing. You know, it's not like we don't go through the process. It's not like I haven't made lists that have gone on to be the best lists, you know, or be the first lists to do well. You know, I can think of a couple of examples personally, you know. So yeah, like I don't know what the other guys think, but that's how I see it, lads. That's not something we've really discussed, have we? But
I mean, like I know what my method is. It's to have a look at it, see what I think is good, play a couple of games, see if it fits how I play, and then kind of see how it goes from there, kind of thing. So, like for example, with the Suns, my first list was all Man Crushers, and then they fell apart, so that didn't work. And then I tried it again with something else, and like mine don't have any Kraken eaters in. And I know that it's probably going to trigger a lot of people because you can get kick objectives and stuff. And it's like, it's cool and everything, but they die quick, and people shoot. Like I played against Jim and his KO with them, and they lasted maybe 20 minutes. And it's like, I have 140 wins, but they're all dead, so it's gone. So, and essentially for me, it's just it's a tick box. Does it work? Does it fit me? No. Right, move on. But yeah, I'm kind of the same as Ritchie, where I'd rather play my own stuff, and then if it doesn't work, I'll just netlist it. I like to think of myself as relatively clever. So when I'm proven not to be, and I'll just netlist it, then just don't say anything. Just let it go under the radar a little bit.
it's such a big part of the game that you miss out on if you do just netlist though, right, as well. Like it's a shame because it's so fun and it's like a big part of it. Thinking Sigma, maybe it's a bit less than some other popular games like 40k, and I think there's obviously a little bit more to 40k, a little bit more you can do tweaking wise. Magic the Gathering, it's a huge achievement if you manage to like figure out something new in that, because the ecosystem's so big. So it's it is a good feel, when you really think you've cracked something and figured something out. And I particularly like that about Kharadron Overlords, actually, which I'm sure we'll lead on to, is that there's quite a lot of different lists going on. And when you're really like into a faction, every little single choice, that's when it gets exciting for me. I look at the list that your man was playing that weekend, you could just go, oh yeah, he's got, XYZ and he's doing Warp, Lightning, Vortex, right? He's not just doing cookie cutter stuff, is he? He's took these little nuanced things. And once you really, really get into a faction, I love all that little stuff, he's split those ending riggers into 2/3s, or he's took a 6, the little things that you say, I love all that.
Yeah. Things like artifact choices and command traits and stuff.
Yeah, particularly in KO, right? Because there's loads of them that are good. I think it's one of the best books with loads of choices. Different ones are good on different heroes. It brings in like lots of the different characters into the discussion. So I love it.
It's interesting that you said a minute ago about you thought you had a reputation sometimes of being the net listing guys, because that wasn't my perspective.
I don't think do say, look, who's a perfect example of a person? Darren Watson, right? Yeah. That man, I'm not writing lists like he's looking at. I am not going, here's these 15 books and what can I scramble together? I ain't about that life. It's like I'm putting dwarfs in this boat and we're flying around. I don't want no knight in Kansas. I want Aetherwings, but it's like you know what I mean. It's, I guess I don't know if I don't know. Maybe that's just me wrong. Then I don't ever feel sometimes like I do anything like so innovative. But
well, to give an example, I remember when you posted up on Just Play on the website, you wrote like 20 lists.
Yeah.
After the KO book come out, and a lot of them were like, oh, here's a list, and then here's a slight variation on it and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it was for people like you guys, right? Who wanted every detail, so.
Yeah. But if you had been in the KO Facebook group or on the WhatsApp chats, then those lists were very different to what a lot of people were talking about, and what you would say is even now the cookie cutter list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, from my perspective, that was like the complete opposite of being like the net listing guys.
Yeah, no, fair. I don't know, maybe just like the odd comment or something has stuck with me more than it should. Maybe then. So
we've got an example from the chat actually. Plastic Crack is about Peter Atkinson. He says,
Hey, Pete.
is your endless spell list for Gits was like 100% yours. So
yeah, thank you. I would say I 100% brought it to success, but I still I took some of that inspiration from Nathan. What's his name? Prescott. Yeah, right. Like he was just a little thing like, oh yeah. He was talking about playing a bunch of endless spells at one point, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds quite cool, But yeah, obviously I was the one who managed to actually get somewhere with it, but not quite as much as I liked. But I done all right.
I think we have like a bit of a different system though, do it just play because like I had the Damarty Eel list that everyone called my list for about a year, So like I think we have like not an echo chamber, but we have like we all confer lists together, like as mates do. You're like, what about this? What about that? And this is when you end up like me and Ritchie doing like a Google Docs of like 40 KO lists that we just dump on there like at 4 a.m. and we just can't think about things. You end up with all these variants, and I think sometimes my process with list writing is like sometimes I really hope and believe in a unit that isn't necessarily the best unit, but I'm gonna play it anyway and make it work. Yeah, I've run multiple things. I've won big events with I've won huge events. I've won with the Damarty Eels. But then I won the finals with a list I completely took from Brian Carmichael, who ran it at Face Out with Sanesh. And I think sometimes it just comes down to your time. What army you own, how much games you put into it, how much you care about the models. And if you want a net list or jump onto something aggressive for a week, then maybe you just, you're borrowing those models or you're borrowing a list. But I think in Just Play we're quite lucky really because we have like a wide variety of echo chamber. We have Ritchie and Ian obviously, but we have like guys like Gene, John, all the guys in the club that play different armies that we just ask, would this work against your army? What would this do? With this? So you get a lot of information from people playing a wide variety of armies that not a lot of people have access to. And then sometimes when I'm super passionate about a list, I'll check with Ritchie and Ian, and then I'll check with some other guys I know, like Russ and those guys, just to make sure everything is bulletproof, and then I'll feel good about it at an event, and then I'll still lose. So, so many different processes. I don't think there's any one process really good list, but like as Ritchie says, it's a huge part of the game because if you know your list and you've designed or written it yourself, you come in from the bones of what it does. You know the roles of the units in different scenarios better than you would if you just get listed. But maybe that's where you see stuff like when people copy my eel list, we're going 3 and 2 and messaging me saying, why? I was like, because you've not played these scenarios before. Like you don't know what you would do. You're just running the same tactic. So yeah, I think it is fascinating when you talk lists. Lists is like half the game, right? If your list is good and your deployment's good, you're in such a strong position before that game even starts. But unless you KO and you just don't deploy anyway, every mission, and then you're like, right, but you don't know what I'm going to do, but I do. Maybe.
Yeah. It was like that with the Gits as well. Like people always ask me, like, how do you move this army? How do you like unpack was the term, like go up the board and still threaten to do all your things, and yet there's like loads of learning, about knowing how far you can go, managing your rages, keeping stuff in check, and people, sometimes you just can't pick up a list. So, yeah.
Sometimes you just got to know your playstyle as well. I think list plus playstyle can bring. Like if I played your Gits list, Richie, I tried it like kind of like a diet version, and like I just hated it with a passion. But 18 months I've had at maximum 10 models, and I've never had a better stretch at tournaments or anything really. It's just you just got to find how a list works for you. Some people love loads of Arcanauts, some people love just boats. People love elves. Weirdos.
Some people love all of it. Okay, there's 5 people here that do that.
Not elves.
It's interesting you used the phrase, James, echo chamber, because I was actually about to ask about that and you brought it up anyway, because I mentioned about WhatsApp and Facebook and stuff, and they basically do become echo chambers to an extent. And then I was gonna sort of postulate that maybe Just Play becomes an echo chamber between yourselves, and you pretty much said it almost does to an extent.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just,
Yeah, and then it's reach out time, right? You know, like sometimes then for me, then it's Ian, right? It's like, Ian, look at this stuff, and you know that's when he'll tell me like, you know, some maybe math stuff. You know, it'd be flat out like, this ain't the one. You know, you're not thinking what this is. You know, and sometimes you get that little check of what he thinks there, but then obviously, you know, he doesn't play as much as me, so it comes back, you know, and I'll talk about like my experience on the table with some things or what I've seen out and about. Yeah, and then you know, like I said earlier, then I do go to the internet. Then I want to see what is going on. Then I want to look at every tournament result and see what people are playing. And you know, and Kharadron is the best example recently because it shocked me. You know, because I like you said, I think I was quite far away from what other people are doing. So yeah, I was like, wow. You know, some of them lists, I know me, I chat like, I can't see how that's won. You know, yeah.
I mean, I've had that feeling as well with some of the KO lists. Like some of them, you look at them, you go, okay, I can see how that's won. Like that's like the quintessential, what I would consider like the top KO list. And then you see others, and you think, I don't get it. But it suits that player's play style, and it's got good things in it. Like so, you know those things are good, but you put them together, and you think, well, is it as good as Zilfin or whatever? But people make it work.
I think honestly, with KO, we Ritchie have looked at tournament results and seen bad lists win, and then we just think about it for like a week. You know, like we just sat there thinking, but how? Like, what was he doing? Like, and obviously it's done really well, so that's great. But I think it's just fascinating.
But my message to you sometimes is like, what are we doing with these lists, Jim? Like, people are winning with this, and we're on this.
So I just send him back the peep show meme that we are the baddest.
Yeah.
We're the baddest.
Because the other thing is that you see plenty of KO lists, and you look at that list and you think, well, that's great, but why are they not, higher up? So I mean, What on a Weekly recently had a show with JP, and they were talking about how much player skill comes into it. I think maybe there's also an element of whether the list is right for the player as well.
I think that's one thing why we've seen weird, so to say, weird KO lists, or not the first pick KO lists do very well last year. I think a part of that is people were not used to play against KO, the new KO.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I can teleport my ships. Okay, let's go. And then you do it, and they're like, oh, you can do this every turn? Or is this happening all the time? Like, yes, I told you.
Okay. Even in the hero phase.
I didn't hear phase. And back and forth.
And now you're 3 away from me.
And now you're shooting, and everything's shooting. Everything's shooting. And I think that's it's getting less now. But in the beginning, it was just the fact. I have my KO army. I'm bringing it. People are not used to play against KO, and then they maybe lose a game that otherwise they would have, on a skill level, would have won maybe.
People are just into KO now, aren't they, really? Like, I think some people have been sending me Lumina lists this week from a Lumina, which is not the strongest city, but the 3 units moving before the game pushes the ships back. So people are now actively thinking about Seraphon and KO teleports, Siege to an extent as well. They're thinking about it, when they write lists, because they're like, I want to be in SAR, but I'm going to take a Lumina just because KO exist, which I think is really interesting when you think about that, because now people, like to your point, Max, are adjusting to, I'm going to play KO. I have an understanding of what they do. I've played against them a little bit, because I guarantee you, we did this in the playtest. We said people haven't played against this army. The first game they have is going to be a very, very hard lesson about what this army does. And then if you learn the lesson, if you're receptive to the lesson, you can apply what you've learned in the next match. If you don't, it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with every new mechanic, new army, new thing that comes into the game. It always takes maybe half a year, depending where you are, to this scene to adapt. Obviously, last year was different because we had less events, and people came out of a 3-month, 4-month lockdown, and here's a tournament, here's my KO, boom. No one's I know there's been a new book out for half a year, but people have not had the chance to play against it. And obviously, we've talked about this on the show about negative play experience and why KO are specifically prone to NPE. But it's just a matter of people adapting, and I don't think they're, even with the points decreases last year from GHB, they're not super bad guys. They're strong, yes, undoubtedly, but there's other stuff. I mean, we had 5 books of Lumineth now. I've stopped counting, with new weird mechanics that just changed the base rules, and like I can fly 48 inches and then I fly again 12 inches and I do mortals and I do mortals again, and you cannot catch me if you don't have shooting. And this guy, you cannot score that objective because I'm just sitting there with my hero, and it's so much new stuff, and people will be frustrated, and then in a half year they know how to handle it.
I think the wind chamber, being able to pile 6 inches wherever they want, not towards the nearest mod, I think that's really underrated as a very, very powerful ability. That I think if you haven't been researching it, or you haven't been keeping up to date with it whilst there's been a pandemic, and you go to a tournament going, well, that guy has to move towards me, so it's not a problem, and he just goes the other way onto your objective. That's going to be something that I think there's going to be a lot of kind of delayed agony about. Obviously, like when I'm around these guys, you don't forget it, so it's fine. But people aren't exposed to that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
true.
It's the same things as Max has said. People are gonna, it does this. I've read about this on the internet. Oh, right, but this happens now and then this, and I haven't got my objective, or my army's stuck. And like that, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Like I said to the lads in the team, by the time I'm finished with you lads, I can't see you losing to KO, because there's so many things that you can do to stop them when you know all the details. And if you come across an opponent that doesn't know all the details, it's when you get them. Right? When they don't put the character an inch further back for no loss, and the carbides are out of range now or something, and it's like, yeah.
I mean, that's been true as always since I played like competitively Age of Sigmar. You're a good player if you know your army, but you're a better player if you know the opponent's army. And obviously now, I don't know what we have, 26 different factions now in Age of Sigmar. And it's a lot of work. And as you said, Ritchie, if you have a day job, if you have kids, if you have a family, keeping up with all this daily thing. Yeah. I mean, I reduced myself to WhatsApp, and I try to follow what the new jank is, but it's crazy, and it's hard work, and it's a hobby that you need to put a lot of time in, apart from the painting and and building and buying stuff, but just keeping up with the newest jank.
I think,
but it's fun.
Even if you're keeping up with it, if you're not playing against it, it doesn't help that much, because you can watch any book reviews you want or listen to people talk about stuff, but it's not the same as playing against it and actually seeing it happen. And then sometimes you might need to play against things more than once as well. And then increasingly, it feels like a lot of books now have multiple builds that actually function fairly differently as well. So it's not like, hopefully, it's always better when they do. But because like we talked about learning about how to play against KO, and it was the same thing effectively with Gristlegore. Like whenever that was, 2 years ago now, maybe
19, yeah. Easter,
but once you
19.
know, like, okay, well, if I just 9 inches behind my screen, I'm all right. Or then
once you know you've lost and there's nothing you could do. That's.
Me and Rich have a story-ish where we were playing at Warhammer World at a grand tournament, and next to us was one of our mates playing a guy. He was playing our mate was playing Gristlegore. He was playing against Zinch, and the guy was like, "I'm going to charge my Lord Change into your Gristlegore General," and me and Rich just turned around and was like, "I wouldn't do that, mate. I wouldn't do that. I'd get him to read the book to you." And the guy our mate was reading the book to him, and the guy was like, "You're lying." And we were just laughing so much because it was so ludicrous. The whole thing was just so mental that like this guy was just like, "I've never played against Flesh Eater Courts, and this doesn't sound right." It was just like we didn't finish our game because we were laughing so hard. Keep it away.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. When he got to the point where it was like, and then my guys have got like a 6+ death save, and I was like, oh no, stuff like that. You want to check the rules there, you know?
I don't think that's going to help you, mate.
But I've lost my train of thought completely now.
What I will say though, for us, Seraphon, to me anyway, is a total blind spot because people say it's broken, it's completely overpowered, but none of us have it.
just battered us all with Seraphon all day long.
Yeah.
Literally haven't got a clue what was going on.
yeah. I mean, like day one we were playing against Lumineth, and I mean, obviously Jim's the darling of the deep, and we've all had to weather that storm. Oh, I need to practice for a tournament. Let me just do it for the next 6 weeks against you. Just turn up and get battered and go home. So, but none of us have Seraphon. So I read the rules and I'm like, yeah, that's really strong and whatever. And you can theory hammer it, and it's like, oh, you do this, and this. But realistically, for me, I don't know how strong they are. I'll turn up to a tournament, I'll get absolutely pasted, and then I'll go home and I'll be like, oh, that was horrible. And then I'll know. But at the moment, we just don't have that access. So if someone does have Seraphon and lives near Liverpool, let us know.
It's interesting you mentioned Seraphon because I think Seraphon was the reason I'm on this show because a good friend of mine who was also a very competitive player here, he got the book and he started playing and he started winning tournaments like bad. And I played against him a lot, and I won every game because I just shot Krokov like first third. That's game over.
Yeah,
and so
again,
because I knew
he didn't know how to play against KO.
Exactly, because the book came out more or less the same time. And before we had a long history of playing his Skaven against my Fire Slayers, and those were always fun matches. And now we both had new armies, and it's just because I had the first hand experience. So I like, it's not a problem. Just shoot Croak and be done with it.
Was the problem. Like I have Beast Claw and Sons of Behemat, so I ain't against Croak. So I think it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. No, that was back when. What did he do? In the end, it was Croak, another Slan, just 15 or 20 Temple Guard people, and the rest was just Salamanders that he could then teleport in from the sky.
God.
So you had to kill the Slans, so he could not do that. And then half his army was in the realm, couldn't come down because there's no Slan on the board, and game over.
Yeah.
So that was always like very short games, like 1 round. Okay, 2 rounds.
Okay. Let's get into some specifics about KO. So when the book dropped, what in the book what were the things that you gravitated to or excited you, whether that's units or skyports or battalions or whatever?
First off, I was quite excited about Zon, but it was for all the wrong reasons, right? I thought I was going to be able to stick balloon boys in boats and like make mad combat boats and just charge in with the boat, and like all the engine riggers fighting inside. I was like, oh, this is amazing. They're all going to heal or whatever. And that was wrong. So that was the first thing I got excited about. And then, then it was Zilfin. Straight back to those guys really. And and I think my first thing was I wasn't that interested in the battalions to start with. I thought we needed like as much stuff as we could possibly buy. I thought we needed to really get a lot of models on the board, really take advantage of the points drops, and just fill the board with stuff, really. And that's, I guess, why my list is still quite high drop. But look, it's developed so much since then, really. I think the list that I like now, I've liked for quite a long time, really, with like little subtle changes, I've never really been into Warp, Lightning, Vortex, really. So, like, all the endless spells, I've always not been particularly into that, and I completely respect it. So that's always give me lots of points and lots of different things to play around with as well. So I think that's certainly where I led to. A bigger part was, and I think this goes for like nearly every list I write, I love the hobby of this game as well, right? I love having armies, love painting nice armies. I love it when an army puts lots of different things from the book on the board. I love it when it's got variation, and that really like pushes me in my list building, like maybe for the wrong reasons at times. You know, if I think I can get like all this different looking unit on or paint something different, or like I love that. You know, so many lists at the start. I was like, I want every size boat. You know, and I definitely wanted boats. You know, and a good few of them. You know, to go around the board because it captured that what I always thought it would be. You know, the army would have a bunch of boats and a fleet flying around the table, and we never had that before. So, yeah. That's what really inspired me at the start.
I really like Zon as well, like a lot. My one KO tournament, I had a big unit of 12 engine riggers, and they just destroyed everything. Just sent them in, and it was just like because the chemists back in the day could give them an extra attack on the saw, just like so good. So I've just had a love affair with them since. So I like the gun haulers and engine riggers. And I wanted like a full balloon army. And then having spoken to Ian, and we had a very quick conversation about how it was, let's go with not optimal. And I was like, right, okay. And then Beast Claw came about. So that's when I kind of moved away from that. But I really like the fact that gun haulers are now a legitimate option rather than just something that you can convert into something else. But yeah, balloon boys all the way.
How about you, James?
Well, mine was Barrett Noah and Barrett Warner, and it got to the point I think where I was writing so many Barrett Warner lists that Ritchie actually accidentally deleted our list document, so they all disappeared into the ether. But no, I really enjoyed Barrett Warner. Really enjoyed Barrett Noah because I'm a big fan of Barrett Noah in the lore, you know, behind how they manipulate the other skyports, which is quite cool. So I always had an interest for that because it's all you read about. There's not enough about the other skyports, in my opinion. I think the others lack quite a bit. You know, I'd like to hear more about Barrett Warner. I'd like to hear more about Zilfin. They seem to make all these ships for everybody, but they have all the named characters about Zilfin. But when it comes to it, you hardly ever hear anything about it. Barrett Warner, I think, because of the staff, you know, with the navigator.
The fuck you stuff.
Yeah, and I love the red shoot tier 1. And I like the idea of sky pirates. Like, who doesn't like that? And I was really into the shark image, you know, the big dead shark, the whale shark, you know, the big feature on the page.
The Harkrok.
Yes, thank you. So really into them, but obviously when it comes to competitive play, I think the only choice, I think, if you're looking to do well at an event, would probably Barrett Zilfin because the access to the abilities and tricks it has. But that's not to say Nara Mornar couldn't do well. It's just, if you want to go with a fully loaded deck, you're probably taking Zilfin. But you'll catch people out with Mornar and Nara as well, because they'll be used to Zilfin and not necessarily used to the Nara stuff. So, and I think Nara perhaps is ever more having a place because, and I'm sure Rich will get to it in a bit, when me and Ritchie build KO lists, we sort of build with the auto unbind, you know, we're playing against Seraphon, Siege, you know, Lumineth, these lists that have a lot of spells that can really hurt you, you know, with the AoE and stuff like that. So just unbinding it for one turn can be a game changing, you know, for KO, because everything for us is always in the boats, right? So if you hit one of us, you hit all of us, which can be both painfully alarming at times, but also quite funny as well. When someone charges you and you go, someone attacked us by Arcanauts? They're like, how? Like, through the porthole, wasn't it? With a little stabbing you out the sides. So sometimes people do, I mean, the Arcanauts do no damage, of course, but, you know, you can cut people out sometimes. Especially the guy with the big pike, right? Me and Mitchell think he's going to do about 10 damage. You know, when someone charges, I'm like, well, I'll do my pike first. You just think he's going to kill everything.
Every time I attack with a pike, I'm like 6 damage, 6 damage, 6 damage. Like, this can turn this so much.
They just want to take him off. Why? Because I've got a pike. So we'll roll it. Like, right, fine.
I thought I was doing more damage to the gun butts.
But I will say another thing that excited me outside of the things was the new gold mechanic, because it was new to the army based on previous books, and I think this was the first iteration, because now we've seen it with Aether Quartz on the Lumineth and some other factions, but they do gain access to like some really key rerolls, which can be clutch, right? Sometimes when you use your gold for to reroll wounds on a thundering unit or a ship, or, you know, whatever you're doing with it. It's just amazing to have that ability, you know, to be able to go, well, I'll reroll wounds for that unit. and I don't have to roll anything for it. It just happens because I'm carrying my gold with me, and I give that gold away whilst I'm on the battlefield.
Nearby, or
where does the gold go? Where does it go?
I don't know, because they spend it, but it's not like there's a shop there that they can just get.
And the Ether gold, it's like gas. It's just
They've
use it
all-
and it's used.
They've all got
No,
smartphones
you-
in their
you
pocket,
should-
and they're like,
You should
ordering
forego
something
your
on
Aether
Amazon.
shares. So you say to your
Venmo.
admiral, I don't need my shares. And then your boss man should supercharge up. You know, the more shares he's getting back, you're
yeah.
essentially working for free. So your guy should level up. You know, like in World of Warcraft. And then he should, in turn 5, he should be like, right, I'm using all of it now. Because I've got loads. You know, but obviously that's not
Like
how it
a
works.
Celestial Prime, they should just get better.
Yeah, I'd be like, here you go, boss. Have my gold. Have my gold. Have my gold. And it's like, keep it coming.
I wanna
that's
catch
how-
up on something James said about people expecting a Zilfin Warp Lightning Vortex. At the tournament, KO lists, let's say 75% of the KO lists will have that build. So people, that's the prototype that, or archetype that people prepare for. And I've really enjoyed my Zon list lately because people like, so you can teleport in hero phase and do this. I'm like, no, I cannot do this in this skyport. But I have these 12 Sky Wardens, and they can move fast and stab people. So it takes people a bit on the wrong foot. Like they're not expecting. They're like, okay, well, how do I tackle what's happening now? And they don't know. And then they have a Ironclad ramming them with +4 charge and doing a lot of mortal wounds and bombs, and a little guy inside with a hammer doing more mortal wounds, and they don't expect that.
Yeah, well, Barrett's
And
all super cool for that, I think.
So you can do very cool stuff, and especially also with Monar, we had people on the show who won tournaments with Barrett Monar, and they say the same, that people, they had 40 Arcanauts, more 70 Arcanauts.
Shot
What was the
50 and
And he just like first turn ran them up and shot all of them, and that's a lot of damage because it's just a lot of dice you throw at people.
I think that's it. Like if your list can't just do stuff and do stuff better than the other person, you need a list that people just don't know what to do with. It's like, so with my Beast Claw, there's so much damage, I'm just going to do it anyway, so it's not a problem. But if people could stop me, then I'm a bit kind of stumped. Whilst if you've got a list like you say with your Zon, where people are like, oh, you can do this, and you go, no, but I'm going to do this other stuff that you didn't know was coming. You know, their decision making is off kilter, and again, that's how you win games. So, good idea. Also, Zon. Yes.
I think sorry, Rex, you go.
No, please.
Well, I was going to say, to Richard's point before about the Vortex, this is an internal struggle that we have, right? Because every event we look at, we see the Vortex list do well, right? As it should. Really good list, strong list. But then we're like, if I was playing my Siege or my Seraphon or my Lumineth, I would never deploy, so you could just Vortex everything. And it's on a 4-up, right? Because you should never have 2 nodes on something. If someone tells you they've got a Vortex in a bottle, your brain should start going, but don't put everything in a cluster. Yeah? You should be like, okay, need to move stuff, separate it out a little bit, yeah? Because they're going to get their range anyway. So they're going to get their 18 inches. If they're in range, they're in range. But don't let them Vortex everything. Which is actually quite funny, because the 2 times we played against it, where Ritchie used it and I used it, we both did exactly that and Vortex everything that we had. So that was nuts. But that's the thought process. It's like it's only catching out people that perhaps haven't played it before or just don't think to deploy actively. Because once the KO blows its Zilfin move, they use the Vortex, which they've invested a chemist for and a second artifact.
And a battalion.
That's a battalion to get the
and a battalion.
probably.
That's their play, right? That's their big play. If it doesn't do the damage, let's say you do get a cluster, yeah, but you don't roll the 4-ups, and it doesn't do anything. And I know it goes on twice, so it's you should get some damage, but then it's your opponent's go and you're sat in front of their army. You know, you can only fight her or move away, right, with that one ship. The rest of your stuff is going to be in shooting range, and then you're really susceptible to a double. And if your opponent's lost nothing, and they're used to playing against it, like Seraphon, Siege, Lumina, they're going to be ready with their Sentinels. The Sentinels just going to shoot straight into your ironclad, take off your heroes. They'll pay a penalty for the -1 to hit. Searing Light's going to go through everything. Kroger's going to have a field day. There's a lot of anti-play to it. I think to Max's point, to back up the Vortex, is that now that people are used to the Vortex list, are they going to start deploying properly against it? And just admit that they'll say, look, I'll trade 300 points of my army to get you in range to charge. That's where we're at. But then, having said all that, you actually then look at New Zealand, Australia, the tournament results for KO winning, but like, maybe we should just play it. Like, we're just wasting time here. What we're doing. It's an internal struggle, but because I think in the UK our meta is slightly different. I think KO have won an event here. It's difficult, but I think over in Australia and New Zealand they've been quite successful. So maybe it's just a meta thing. But the Vortex, so many people could have mined it turn 1 as well. Croak, Siege, and Luminef will just get rid of it straight away turn 1. So it's interesting because I think the Vortex is a really big topic of discussion because there's two chains of thought, isn't there? Are you taking a Vortex or are you not? And this is the more exciting hand, right? Because now you can play anything. Balance on all kinds. You can do what you want. The Vortex list probably has to be Zilfin for the delivery mechanism, to get that hero face fly high.
There's a case in 1R where you can do the pre-game move to deliver it.
Yeah.
But
the only thing with that is if your opponent measures it and you don't do it and they go first and they kill that chemist, you're going to be very sad.
You've got to be low drop.
Well, that's the other stress, isn't it? It's like if you can't do it turn 1, your opponent's going to come after that chemist and everything they have. Spells,
Absolutely.
everything. So you kind of have to do it turn 1 just to make sure you've got your value. So it's a struggle. It's interesting. I don't know what you guys think.
I completely agree. It's the reason why I moved away from the. I'm culpable. I did the Zilfin Warp Lightning Vortex. That was the fun. Then I added the Prime to that.
We've all done it. We've
done it. And then I moved away to a Flare Pistol with 20 Thunders and using the Zilfin move to deploy them 3 inches in front of you and just blowing everything up. And I did quite well at tournaments.
About Jurassic Park when you do that? You shoot the Flare Pistol. And the little red light goes off, and the T-Rex runs after it. So all your Thunderers are just doing the same, but aiming their rifles up. I just in my mind,
and I played it for a long time, and it was successful. But it's a lot of your output is in one place, and with some armies and some battle plans, you cannot afford that. You need to be on multiple fronts.
But it also makes every game the same.
Away from that.
Like every game is the same. Every game you're doing the same thing with the same strategy. And if it doesn't work,
you have your list.
Yeah.
You have your check boxes. Okay, I'm gonna Zilfin fly my ship here. Okay, check. I need to shoot first with the navigator. Let's reroll once just to be sure. Check. Okay, I'm gonna shoot everything into him. Check. And then either like half his army's gone or not, and then your Thunders are sitting there. For the rest of the game.
We're very
Richie.
And just like Ritchie has already got 20 of them. I've got 30 for Barrett now. But Ritchie has been running literally 20 in lists. I have 20 as well, but in our lists, 20 is probably the right size because there'll be more wounds in the clan. Because they've got the 18-inch damage with Rend. But maybe Ritchie can add
there's a whole discussion. If you take 20, okay, then you're wasting an artifact on the Endrin work to do the fly high still with 20 people inside. Then and then I painted that, moved on to the next list. It's the cycle.
It's interesting. We mentioned earlier about the KO lists that have done well at tournaments. You look at them. Why is that one done well? The ones that aren't like the Warp Lightning Vortex ones, and it's an element of it must be that the people that are prepared to play against KO are prepared to play against Warp Lightning Vortex, not the more unusual KO lists. So
we recently had Marcus on the show who did quite well in 2 tournaments with a Fring list with Hearthguard and a Prime, lots of gun holders. And he said the same. He
won one or at least went 5-0, didn't he?
Yeah,
he went 5-0 twice, I think.
Twice, yeah.
No, he went 4-1 and then 5-1.
1-5-0, and he said people didn't know how to handle his list. because it's so different. Okay, they understand what it does. Like, okay, there's these people that can tunnel, and then there's a prime in the sky, and then there's this, and you can reroll ones against this, and you can have exploding sixes, but it's three different things that you need to prepare for, which makes it much more difficult than, okay, there's this ironclad with 20 thunders inside, or there's this ironclad that will deliver a vortex, and the rest is just gun haulers and engine riggers.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's fun. It's new stuff to discover. I really want to try that Fring list because I have the models painted. I have the armies.
Yeah.
So bring all my
Well,
dwarves
I'm
out.
very pro Hearthguard. Everyone knows I love Hearthguard Berserkers. So I'm going to borrow some of Rich's at the next event, and I'll and give it a go, right? Because Hearthguard, those cute little dwarves. I'm sure they'll do okay.
I've got a prime here for you as well.
Yes, do it.
You're welcome.
And that's another thing we haven't mentioned, but we've seen. Just Play also does now battle reports. Live battle reports on YouTube.
Yeah, no, it just started. I think we're like 4 or 5 weeks in, and really enjoying ourselves with it. So I think started off because I don't watch battle reports. I never have, but I started playing 40k. I don't know anything about 40k. So I thought I'll watch some battle reports. I'll listen to some people talk. I'll find battle reports about the army I'm going to play, and I'm painting and it's on in the background. And I really enjoyed the tabletop titans that do it for Warhammer 40,000. And look, they've inspired what I do a lot. And as I seen it, and I thought, wow, like, I could actually maybe spend enough time to do that the way these guys have done that. That's really clever, and then later listening to them talking on 40k Game Changers podcast. They were interviewed like on that like week 2 or something. And they were basically like saying, like we used to edit videos and we can't because, it takes too long. So we've done this. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm onto something then. So, and so I'm really, we didn't feel there was, there wasn't anything obviously exactly like that for Age of Sigmar. And we've always wanted to do battle reports. It's one of those, is it one of them like, oh, I want to do battle reports thing, you see YouTube and is that like the thing to do, that everyone wants to do? I don't know, I sort of felt maybe that is, it is like that, so we're like, oh, I've actually wanted to do battle reports, and I think now here's a way I could actually do it, which I thought was entertaining, so that's why we've come off and done our own thing with it. So
we've been begging Ritchie Lee to do it for years now, within the team or within so we have a WhatsApp chat, and we've been saying for years, like, just man up and do it. And then it was basically help us and then we'll do it. And I think help was maybe halfway out of Ritchie's mouth, and I was like, I'm in. I was like, I'll do whatever. And as I said, whilst we were chatting before the podcast, I was told to be behind the camera to start off with, to give these two a chance, really. Let them kind of like have the fun. And then when the real star turns up, and I can't play on my own. That's what I'm saying. So they're going to have to be my support cast. They're not denying it. They know.
Yeah.
I got completely distracted there because you said support cast. I was like, is that like a new Stormcast thing? The support cast, the support cast Eternals.
Yeah, they're just really happy for you. Go on.
But basically, that's what they are. They support all your Cities of Sigmar lists. You just
it's about
take
right.
them in.
That should be a thing.
Support
Sure,
cast Eternal.
someone should make them with like pom poms and.
There's some Blood Bowl team you can convert them.
I've got some here.
Pretty sure.
I've got some breed stuff as well.
The main thing about the way you're doing your battle reports is the fact you're doing them live. Which is there isn't anyone doing that at the moment for Age of Sigmar. Well, there is, but there isn't anyone else. To say it quickly. So was that purely the reason why was just so you didn't have to edit stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why we do this live.
I'd enjoyed what I'd seen as well, which made me think, oh, this works. These guys are onto something. They're entertaining. And I hoped I could be. So, yeah, I hoped there could be. And I thought, I can spend the time doing that, you know.
I think with live, with live ones. So, like, I do watch a lot of battle reports. I'm an absolute sucker for anything destruction, really. So, like, when I'm watching them and they either make a mistake or there's something where I'm like, oh, I'd do something different, rather than just shouting at the screen like I do with every battle report that I ever watch, and my fiance sat next to me or in the other room going, they can't hear you. At least with us, if there's something wrong, and you know we are going to get stuff wrong, you know, it's if someone can just go, oh, you actually can't do that, and it's like, oh, brilliant. Well, I've learned something, and you feel involved, and it's a to and fro. And I'm not gonna lie, I love being sociable, so I'm always on Twitter trying to be as positive as possible. Until I saw that 6-inch piloting thing, and then I was off Twitter for a week. But yeah, like I like talking to people, and then obviously when Ritchie was like, do you want to talk to people, and do you want to take questions? And I was like, absolutely. Like, I would much prefer to be live. It's a bit more nerve-wracking, but at the same time, like, I mean, we're used to it now, so I prefer it. I think it's just better.
Yeah, that's definitely a benefit of doing it live. It's just you have the involvement of people. They come in, they chat. Personally, I'm not there when it starts because it's just the hour of dinner for me, but I drop in later when I'm painting. I'll say, oh, there's still turn one. Okay, 2 hours later. Well, I haven't missed much. Great. And you just, it's people chatting, people talking, answering questions, you rolling dice. And that's awesome. Just,
that's it.
For me, a bit of background noise while I'm painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that a lot. The way I always watched them was, and I try to, what I enjoyed, I try to make a point of that when I'm hosting it as well, is, yeah, it's background noise, a lot of it. But then every now and again, something gets you, doesn't it? And you're like, oh, wait there, what? And that's what I'm like, guys, look, check this out. This is what we're doing here, and hopefully there was times, your paintbrush goes down, you have a little look up and think, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I see the point he's making here.
Absolutely, especially when they say, okay, because now I have this ability and I can move here and I'm doing 10D free mortal wounds. Like, oh, okay, now I've learned something. Like, I've learned they can do this. Especially because you guys in your battle groups, you do a lot of talking and explaining why you're doing things. Like, I don't know, should I take the turn? Because I could run him over here, and explaining your train of thought, and that helps a lot too.
All the stuff that would normally be edited out of a battle report.
Yeah, I think that's the most valuable because, when you're a beginner or when you're not quite as good as the person you're playing against, to mine them for information. Like, I mean, me and Jimmy have known each other for 20 years, and he only started a year before me, and he's grand champion, and I'm some idiot who plays destruction. So, like, I when I'm playing against Ritchie and Germany, and I want them to explain what they're doing, so that if I see it and the person doesn't know me, then I don't have to play the person. I can play what they're. Oh, right, okay, they're going to do this, this, and this. So for me, that's the most valuable bit for me, because I'm like, right, I've learned that now. I've been smashed by Lumineth. Like, JP's Lumineth is the most oppressive list I've ever played against in my life. I felt completely powerless, like pants down. Never felt worse. But if I see that in a tournament now, I'm like, right, okay, I can at least handle it, and I can go and have a drink with him afterwards, rather than thinking that he's the worst person in the world. So, that's it. It's one of them. Like, I prefer to have the discussion, on a Thursday, or whilst it's casual, rather than pay 60 quid, 70 quid, 100 quid, whatever it is, to go to a tournament and get battered. So I just get battered on Thursdays instead.
I guess the other thing about with it being live is it's almost a bit like you're in a store or club or whatever, and you're just watching your mates have a game, as opposed to watching a battle report, like an edited, put together for consumption type thing. It's more of a just watch my mates, have a game, and you can, if you want to, do some painting while your mates are playing, you can, type of thing.
Yeah,
it's quite nice.
That's exactly.
I think it goes beyond that for us, really, because we have a Just Play, like before we were talking about, because I didn't really answer what Just Play is to me, but it's our social Warhammer community, and it's like it's showing that competitive gaming can be a positive thing. And I think when people are part of the social conversation during the game, it helps them become part of the game, if that makes sense. So, competitive isn't all about one-turn wins. You can see that me and Ritchie play a lot of tough armies, tough lists that you would see at events. And I think people can see that there's like the way we play is quite open, quite fair. We don't begrudge each other any cool combos or any big smashes, unless it's her can't go first for the fourth time. Then we try to expand our community to further, because Warhammer is everybody's community, right? So it goes beyond that. So we're trying to. There's an element of that as well, I think. For people like yourself, Max, coming in from dinner, you could just jump on, and not so much more the game, but just join the Warhammer community for that moment in time, for just for a little while, and then they can go to bed and go to work the next day, as we all do. So I go to work the next day. Ritchie, actually, to be fair, Ritchie's doing the same thing the next day, so that is his work. So he's maybe different.
Living the dream.
For most of us, we're back at the desk at 9 a.m.
Yeah,
so,
I can tell you, as being behind the curtain a little bit and interacting with people, especially like the guys who have been referred through YouTube or through you guys. You guys brought a couple in this week, just gone, and talking to new people. Like obviously, like the people I know, great, love them all. Hi everyone. But it's the new people, and it's reaching a new audience, and because they might not know who we are, or they might not know what the army does, and if we can be of value and be entertaining at the same time, and that people come by for more, like that's our goal. Well, that's my goal anyway. I think that's what we're all in there for. So, yeah, love it.
So your next battle report, it's got KO in it.
Oh, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Can you reveal who KO are playing against next week?
We actually can't yet, because I've sort of put this on James to say, what do you want to bring against me?
I've solved that now. It's going to be -4 to hit play bearers.
Oh God!
It's not going to be IDK then, because that's what I was expecting was IDK.
No, it won't be an army we've featured on the channel already, because we try and use a bit of diversity, but we can't really reveal it because we don't know. So we're going to pick it this week based on selection, because we have a few, right? But we're trying to think who would be interesting that KO can't just get in 1 or 2 turns if they win a dice roll. Who can actually? It's interesting to watch how KO would crack that nut, if that makes sense.
We're interested in maybe like we're thinking about the Archeon Kairos list. Maybe that's a really big list out there. Lumineth a little bit, but
we could see the Lumineth.
Yeah, because they're still one of the ones to come out. Yeah, one of the really good armies out there. So yeah, there's quite a lot really. Yeah, so
I think that could be a revenge game for the Beastclaw Raiders. A revenge game for KO, because last time that they played on TV, Warhammer TV, KO lost. So,
last time I'm taking you on. I'm saying to Wayne next time. Get me someone else. I'll shoot them instead.
You recommended me though. You were like, "Oh, just bring this lad on. It'll bring his fun little list. Or it'll jump." Smashed you. Mate.
You promised me you wouldn't charge any boats.
I did. I did it anyway.
I wish I had an answer for you. I really do, but I'm so up and down about it. So. We're like, there's like painting going on as well, so we're we've got like old Lumineth armies. We've got some old Lumineth armies, right? We'd like to show some of the new stuff when we bring the Lumineth on, so that's why they've been like quite a bit further down the line, really.
You don't want to do it with unpainted stuff, so
no, and we don't want to like not have a law, so you can not have the terrain piece, and things that are probably going to be in most lists, so. I think we'd really like to see some of the the wind charges on the table as well. I like to see what they do. I'd like to see what the FAQ says about a lot of this stuff as well. I think we've got into the territory now as well, where it's like, is the FAQ out? I think if the FAQ come out, maybe we play them. If it didn't, maybe I'd try and wait another week to see if it come. So I'm like on tenterhooks waiting to see about that as well, because I want the content to stay relevant, right? Otherwise we could be doing weird stuff with wind charges and it'd be out of date a week later. You never know. There's so many things that could change with them. So
essentially, we don't want a victim. We want someone that can actually give KO a little bit of a go before they just get shot off. So we want to have, because we've got a Squigs army ready to go. That's enough. That'll get battered. We'll all compare. We've got loads available, but it's just we want to make content that is good and that lasts more than about half an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. But you need to pay attention, because I did the same on our first battle report that we did. So I said, I'm playing KO, obviously, because it's a KO podcast show. So if our friend, he bought Beastclaw Raiders, and that went completely wrong for me. He just rammed my boat. I lost the first battle report. Okay. We said, let's do something that have a equal list, so it's fun, entertaining to watch. Have 5 rounds of a game, and not just blew right in my face. So pay attention what you face.
It was a thing that concerned us as well to some degree with Age of Sigmar as a whole. I think hopefully it doesn't a lot, and it probably won't between me and Jimmy. Are quite evenly matched, but I double you into 2, and I've won, and the game's over, in an hour. I think so. We have to try and be careful that we don't set up situations like that. There's no doubt that we will, at times, particularly when tournaments come around and we're preparing for them and stuff like that. You'll probably see us play lists that we may be taking that weekend, or we might show how we're tested against the big baddie or something like that. And so maybe we will see in the future, but we've tried to be careful, because 40k doesn't really lend itself to that. The game doesn't get going, even that quick sometimes. So now people can't shoot each other. But
Okay, so we don't know what KO are going to be playing against, but we have a little bit of an idea what KO you might be playing. But
so I think a good point to go on. You know what we're playing is, we don't tailor them to what we're playing. We do play all comers stuff. We wouldn't we never make our list changes to be I think this would be good against this, or they need a little bit of help here. We don't do that. So we play our tournament lists, all comers, we could be playing anything. Last week we had Artifact that was pointless, but there's no way that Fire Slayers are not taking it. So, I'm not going to take another item just because it's pointless in this one. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, because people want to see the lists in game that they'll face at the tournament.
Yeah, and I think all these ones we're going to talk about now, I would take these, as an all-comers thing in a singles event. So,
So you haven't decided which of these lists yet is going to be the one.
Oh, I do. No, I know that.
Oh, okay. So you can tell us in a minute.
Yeah.
So let's look at the first one then. So is it this one? before we slate it.
before you slate it, yeah. It will not be this one.
No, he doesn't have that many Arcanauts.
He doesn't have that many Arcanauts.
We have to borrow 10 off.
This. Go on. I'll let you go. Sorry. Go
on. So no, I'm not going to slate. I was joking about slate.
Guys, let's do it.
Okay. But so this is Barracks Ilfin, which obviously we talked about. You think Barracks Ilfin is the top-notch Skyport. 2,000 points on the nose, 8 drops, which is relatively high for KO list on average, and 132 wounds, which is actually pretty high as well for a KO list. It's not high in the game, but
it's high for KO without any allies or over dwarven units.
Because you could write KO list under 100, couldn't you?
all my KO lists are, I think,
So,
around 80 or 90.
Yeah, right. So, and then for the because this will go out on a podcast as well. So the people at home that are listening rather than watching, what the list is a navigator who's the general with Stormcaller command trait, a Void Stone Orb artifact, and a chemist with Staff of Ocular Optimization. Which obviously one of the heroes has to have that because it's Barracks Orphan. 4 units of Arkanauts, 3 10s, and 120. And then 3 Arkanaut frigates, one of which has got Malefic Sky Mines, one with Magnificent Omniscope. All of them got heavy sky cannons. And then 3 units of Aetherwings, which are allies. And an Ironclad with the Buoyancy Aid and Great Sky Cannon. And then Iron Sky Attack Squadron. So, I mean, let's start unpicking this. The obvious thing to unpick first, probably for me, would be Aetherwings, because I mean we've talked about them on previous shows a little bit, but to me they are a great cheap unit for chaff that's mobile, for sitting on objectives and things. Is that why they're in the list?
Absolutely. You know, I think these tie into me being high drop, right? You know, and they make me high drop and also help me defending being high drop. So look, these are too cheap. You know, 40 points, 3 units, loads of movement in them. I like these because these allow me to progress the game without committing to the game. Okay, so I'm high drop, you know, so that's a fear. People are going to make me go first. People always want to try and go second where they can, and people certainly don't ever want to be double turned by KO, do they? So they quite often will want to make me go first, which I don't mind. As a general rule myself, when I talk about play style, I don't mind going first. You know, people talk about the double all the time. Well, you've got to get it, you know, and the odds are in my favor. So crack on, right? So Aetherwings will allow me to go and take the objectives in the middle of the board, go and score all my points, you know, without committing my army, right? They allow me to go, right, okay, it's my go. I'm going to fly high. I want to do, let's say, something really basic. I want to go on this flank with my whole army and shoot this flank, right? What about scoring all these objectives? The Aetherwings just go and do it, right? They just go, they score all my points. They probably don't hold anything. But they get me that score in turn 1 when I get on with my plan of killing stuff. They allow me to screen my boats without, you know, sacrificing Arkanauts or anything like that. You know, if I want to turtle up in a corner against something fast, like the Flayers, you know, which we seen. And you've seen your friend, he deployed in that sort of manner against an army like that as well. So they let me do all those things, and that's the big thing for me. The biggest one I would say is how I talk about they let me progress the game without committing any of my army. I get to get going. You know, if you're given first turn, it's the worst, right? When you're like, oh, what am I going to do? Walk my lads up the board to get charged. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter. These Aetherwings are going to do that. You know what? And they'll hang around for a long time. You know, I know that, like, if there's a tall building, I love flying them to the top, you know, and they can strike out possible 18 inches anywhere to an objective, you know. I'll shove them right up here and they can be there. And I think they have an effect on people where they also feel like they're getting the game going, right? Maybe they don't, you know, they're going to go second and they're like, okay, well, you know, I'm doing all right here, actually. I've killed all his chaff. He hasn't got those no more. These objectives are mine now. I'm doing okay here. Whereas really they've done nothing, right? So I rate Aetherwings a lot.
Oh, just lost James.
Yeah,
I'll surely be back.
Another thing with Aetherwings is, even if, like, you send them on objectives, you said they're not going to hold the objective. That's for sure. They don't have a save and 2 wounds each. But it's 1 round or 1 turn where your opponent is committing his output into 40-point unit.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and what are they going to do? Start splitting fire or something, or what if they don't kill them? They haven't
Splitting attacks.
done.
That always pans out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That never works, right? So yeah, it's yeah, they're good. They're good. I really, really, really rate them. You know, and it goes past that turn. You know, say they leave one alive. You know, or they just move on the objective with their 10 lads and take it. Well, those 3 Aetherwings, they fly off somewhere else. You know, and you position them for the next turn where they can strike back on an objective, right? They can get something, they can, you know, get to a certain area of the board. Maybe they threaten secondary objectives somehow. You know, you never know. So,
Well, there's
deal with them, haven't you? You got to do something, otherwise they'll be a pain later.
yeah. I'm sure Jim would echo how annoying it is, you know, to play against them. You know, when they're, yeah, like Max says, they've got to be answered. So. I really, really like them. You know, biggest part for me is they let the army just go and get on with flying boats around the board and shooting people, you know, and not worry about, you know, exposing themselves early on and stuff. So,
I mean, they've got to be good because they're allies, and you historically hate allies. So, that's big time.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so they are that good that I will not. I take them. Yeah. So.
I remember the initial excitement when they went down to 40 points from people. They're like, 40 points for a unit.
Yeah.
I've tried them out myself, and I think that's something you need to learn how to play with as well, because they are essentially a very useful tool, but it's very easy to get into this trap of thinking, right, they're this thing I push forward, so I don't have to push other stuff forwards. But in certain battle plans, in certain situations, actually, you're better sometimes to push other stuff forwards and leave them sitting on your objectives. If purely you want to zone out space, because if you push, say, your Arcanauts forwards, which can obviously move forwards 10 inches turn one because they can auto run 6 in Zilfin, then they can actually be zoning out space. So when, for instance, the way I learned this lesson was against IDK, which obviously run and charge turn 2, which means they're getting across the table regardless. So I deployed with my Aetherwings in front and my Arcanauts behind. I should have deployed the opposite way around, because if I push the Arcanauts forwards, then they run across the table and charge, but if they charge, they won't actually get onto the objective. Whereas they just went round the Aetherwings because they weren't big enough to zone out.
Well, you're right. You made the other point where the Aetherwings can also, if I go turn 1, they can stay on my objectives and tag them, and while I fly off, right? So yeah.
Sure. Jim's just dropped out. His internet's playing up, but he'll be back in 2.
Okay.
So
okay, cool.
No worries. Yeah, to maybe conclude the Aetherwing topic, I really rate Aetherwings, but not in KO. I love them in my Tempest Eye lists, because I'm high drop in Tempest Eye anyway. I play all dispossessed and there's no battalion, so it's 12, 13, 14 units. So I don't care. I want a cheap screen. But in KO, that's just my personal preference. I want to be low drop because I want to have the control of the game. I go or you go. I just love that mechanic or that benefit advantage as a player. It's just my personal style, and that's, as you said, Aetherwings, they just they drive your drops up.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing about KO, which is they shouldn't need to control the drops, or to control the priority that much, because, like we mentioned at the beginning, you can null deploy basically, because you can just put boats in the corner and stuff. So in theory, you shouldn't need to. You
shouldn't need to, but it's so much fun when you get a double.
Yes, well, that's the thing, is the polarizing effect of the double turns.
It is. We'll see. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that probably leads into the problem of the Warp Lightning Vortex list, whereas when they get double turn back, well, they don't get that double turn.
Yeah.
Because you played for it. And I mean, the other thing about this list is attack squadron and the sheer amount of Arcanauts you have there. So it looks like it's essentially a board control list.
I guess it's more it's more relying on the boats for damage.
Mhm.
You know, I think, you know, let's compare a frigate to a bunch of Thunderers or something, you know. I think that personally the damage is quite comparable. So yeah, and then like the Arcanauts sort of fit in it, and they can do what you said, yeah. So they can control a board, but also an attack squadron, right? They can very good at stealing objectives off people, or very good at getting further into the backfield, getting hold of things that maybe, you know, screens have been cleared out, charging really far. Yeah, you know, and they're pretty cheap. You know, 4-up save. Hopefully, we can get them in cover somehow and get them on a 3-up. You know, maybe they've got a re-roll. I don't really ever think that KO are particularly good at holding objectives. You know, they're more better at stealing them. So, yeah. Hopefully there's enough damage here from the boats and the ironclads, and then I've got a bunch of cooldowns, you know, call them from an MMO point of view or whatever. I always talk about the one of my cooldowns being the Iron Sky Attack Squadron, you know, being able to move the boat, get the guys out super close, get them on a terrain piece, hopefully, always being aware of how far my boats are from terrain. You know, can they do their whole move and, you know, rush over and drop 10 lads out somewhere, or, you know, the ironclads, you know, drop 20 lads out somewhere with the Zilfin cooldown of doing it in the hero phase. So I think this army's got lots of ways to carry on playing the objective game, lots of ways to steal objectives back off people. So yeah, that's what I like. And that's what I like about Iron Sky Attack Squadron overall, and what I like about Zilfin overall, because the Aetherwing point and that point will bleed over to basically all the lists that we look at today. So
yeah, with all these things you just mentioned, you kind of arrange with the fact that Arcanauts only have 9-inch pistol range.
Yeah, fine.
Because with and that's why personally I rate them as a screen, as a chaff, but not for damage. But once you can, you know, disembark after a move, you'll be within 9 on most battle plans. If you put the 20 into the Ironclad and do the Zilfin move, you'll be within 3 inches if you want to. And now, then plus you put them on an objective maybe, or hold within 9, so you get a +1 to hit. There's damage. Let's say damage. It's not a lot of damage, but there's damage. You can make them work.
Yeah, yeah. And you can just bring like a bunch more to up that whatever your target, also getting shot by, you know, the 3 frigates in the Ironclad, right? And the fact that they're on whatever important objective, you know, we get these 20 guys out 3 away, which is really easy to pad on objective. They're on 25mm bases. You got a damn good chance of stealing, you know, something big.
Plus you can charge them in and shoot and then still charge them on
3d6 charge as well.
Well, not on the clad, but, you know, in the other situations, absolutely. And the Ironclad can, you know, can move away or whatever. I don't know if, like, maybe we go through the units and then talk about what you could change in this a little bit. But I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, I have to do X and Y, you know.
So one question I have is the navigator. What's his role? Why is he the general, and why the Voidstone orb?
Okay, so great hero, right? All us Kharadron fans, I'm sure we agree the navigator is really good. His ability is really, really good. A half move on a flying unit. You know, I think this like shows up big time when you play against, you know, quite a generic looking Age of Sigmar army where there's a big flying monster and maybe the generals on it, and there's just one of them. You know, it's not a bunch of eels. You know, there's one more crusher, there's one Terrorgeist, and it's half
one Archeon.
Right? There's Archeon, right? Yeah, and he's half movements. So I think that ability is amazing. He is the general because in Zilfin you can dodge the command trait and get to pick one. So we took Stormcaller, which you have to remind, is this the reroll one or the +1 one?
That was something I was going to check before the show.
I can never remember.
Yeah, didn't you check, Lee?
I meant to check, but then I went out for dinner and forgot.
And the artifact +1.
Yeah, because there's 2 different ways of buffing. I can never remember which way around.
Yeah, exactly. One of them's +1 and one of them's reroll. So
Max is checking.
Yeah. Well, basically, look, it helps me get that ability off.
I'm fairly sure it's a reroll.
You can re-roll
Yeah.
the dice.
So it's a 3+ with a reroll. Really good chance of it is going off and me making sure that unit is half movement. So I think that is just like really good, right? Voidstone Orb. So Jim touched on this earlier. I like this because I know I can stop a key spell at some point. You know, if we're playing like there's really early phase of the game, you know, turns 1 and 2, and there's plenty of big spells out there.
Yeah, a Balewind, Bound Germinates, a Bridge, you know, some key
Teclis is a good one. You know, I think it really puts the Teclis player under a bit of pressure what they want to do with their turn.
The 5+ feel no pain from Teclis, for example. Yeah,
or the AoE if he wants to do the damage one. Is he going to cast 4 spells? Is he going to cast 1 because he needs to get 1 off? I found that to be effective when maybe they make me go first or something. I get that in range of Teclis, and then they're like, okay, what are you going to do? You know, do you want to try and do a load of damage to me? Do you want to? I get to click on something to stop. So I like that, and obviously he's got a roll. He can roll 1 as well. So that I really like that combo.
It's a solid choice, especially in the world we live in with these. What are they called? Dom casters, spelldoms. Yeah, those magic people. How do you rate?
Something I missed earlier on was I really liked Endrin Masters when it first came out as well, and I've liked them for a long time, not just right at the start. I really like the hero. I loved flying the boats together, you know, being within one of the ironclad, me maybe rolling 2d 3+1 heals, 3d 3+1 heals. Maybe I lean into that even more and give it, you know, the trait to add 1 to the heals. You know, I found that to be pretty good at times, but not enough. So that's why I moved away from them in the end to the Navigator. And can I go off topic here? You guys are the KO experts of the world and what else is going on, right? Have we seen the Ironclad, like 5 of them in an Admiral yet? Because I really like. I just want to try that.
I don't think we've seen it at a tournament, but
the hammer boat.
It's
the hammer boat. See, it's got a name. It's got a name.
Yeah, it's a gun holder with compartments, and you stick in an Admiral and 3 Endrin Masters on foot.
No, 5.
4. Yeah, you can put in 5 people in the gun holder. So. It's quite an investment, but I'm all getting +1 to it, and then they can. It's fun, but I don't think it's been viable in tournaments.
In a tournament, I think was probably Dave Kane, because I think he had 2 Endrin Masters, and then he had Arcanauts he had Thunderers in the boat as well, and he had an Admiral to get the +1.
He had an Admiral. Yeah, he loves his Admirals.
He didn't quite go as far as having 5 Endrin Masters, but
no, not yet.
It's one of those things that people talk about, but don't.
Yeah, well, like this is what I talk about. I posed it to the chat once, and I basically there's a Blag War Scroll maker, right? You know, whatever it is. Yeah. So I made this like War Scroll for what's this 1,000-point model or whatever, right? And it was like, what if? What do you think of this for 1,000 points, guys? You know, you can imagine the stat line, right? It's got 5 gazers. It's got all the guns from the Ironclad already, and then it's got 15 attacks, 3s around 1d3 damage. You know, you'd snap that up, right, wouldn't you? And it's got like loads of wounds.
Can teleport.
Bracket thing. You know, if you took 6 wounds, you lose this. 6 wounds, -1 to hit, +1 save. You know, all this stuff, and you're like, this seems really good. Like 1,000 points, that's fine. So, anyway, quite off topic there, but I like them quite a lot to start with as well. I actually like all the heroes, the Admiral less so, but I think this list could have an Admiral as well. I think you could lose lose a lot of the Aetherwings, take the Triumph bid, and put an Admiral in, help with the 20 Arcanauts in the boat and some of the stuff that can do. So,
because the second question I would have, because really, I understand most of the choices here because it's Iron Sky attack plus an Ironclad for 20 Arcanauts in it.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because you've got the Zilfin move on the Ironclad, and then you've got the 3 frigates that can go around and put Arcanauts on objectives as well. So then it's really the question is, and then of course the Aetherwings, we discussed what their role is as well.
Mhm.
So the real question is about the heroes. So we just talked about the Navigator and why you chose him. I mean, Voidstone Orb is a great pick. We discussed it a little bit on the show. I can't remember which show it was on, but with Quan, because he was toying between that and Vent Plates, and it's like, well, Vent Plates is good against some armies, but Voidstone Orb, like a lot of the shooting armies, still rely on a spell as well. So it becomes a better pick because it helps against those magic armies that don't have any shooting, and then the shooting armies still need the magic, like still has a massive impact on them as well. So Voidstone Orbs go. The Chemist, is he?
Because he's
90 points. Is that what he's in? And because Staff of Ocular Optimization isn't that bad on him? Or?
It's not bad on him, no.
Okay, no. So this list was no Chemist, was less Aetherwings and an Admiral. But now I rate the Chemist more since Broken Realms.
Okay.
Yeah, look, his gold spend is really, really good now.
Because he can buff the boat, though.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, you can buff the 20 Arcanauts inside.
Yeah, 20 buff those 20 Arcanauts, which he couldn't do before.
No.
Like, they would have to start outside the boat, in which case the Zilfin move wouldn't work. And
And
so I rate him a lot now. You know, he really helps you push the alpha if you want to. You know, you can spend because also it's in the hero phase that it's done. So it allows you to spend gold more efficiently in each phase. So I can spend in the hero phase to buff a unit. And then in the shooting phase, I can spend me 1 to also buff a unit, right? You know, I can get the rerolls on the Ironclad, you know, the reroll 1s on the Arcanaut, you know, whatever you want to do, really. It's really good. You know, it's another way, like you just said, it can buff the boat, right? So the boat can keep its gold for longer for reroll saves. Like the Chemist opens up like way more lines of play now. And he's amazing again.
And since we mentioned the new guild triumphs, I mean, the Navigator, his one is that you can have or lose the ability rerolling it and still rerolling charges and runs you don't need because the ships automatically run 6. But do you actually charge with your boats in this list?
Yeah, no. So no, I would say is my plan 1 basic thing, but yeah, of course you do, right? You know, that situation's coming up, isn't it? You know, you're going to shove the Ironclad in to hold stuff up. You know, you're going to put a frigate in to tag something somewhere and end. So yeah, it's happening in the game, isn't it? Like,
get that 1 or 2 mortal wounds from the bombs just to finish someone off.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, or just, you know, some attacks. You got a bunch of guys in them at times, haven't you? You know, the Clad charges got so many attacks. It's got the characters in. It's got all sorts going. So yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that would be something that in the list you could do. You know, you could quite easily decide that, you know what, I'm just going to have not have 20 Arcanauts and I'll take the battering ram on the Ironclad. You know, these 10 Arcanauts can walk around on the floor and hold objectives or scream for me every game. So yeah, you could absolutely do that as well, couldn't you?
Yep.
Because I think you're right. Like someone said it earlier, it's not great buying the buoyancy aid, right? But it also is quite good because it does lots of stuff. But yeah, you're stuck on a few decent things for the Ironclad, really.
The buoyancy aid is one of those things where it's a key decision moment in a KO list, I think, whether you use it or not, because it dictates a lot of things. Like you have that option there; it's in the back of your head. Like, if I took buoyancy aid, then I could put more guys in this boat, but then there's other really cool options like the battle ram and stuff. So.
Yeah, I like the gun hauler one as well, to put the Chemist in with the warp lightning vortex, you know, let him go off and do something. So, yeah.
But yeah, this is a list I really like, and I spent a lot of time with KO thinking about lists from a perspective of, right, well, there's this many objectives on the table, so I need these many units. And then rather than just like, right, I want to do this thing where I go forwards and I put a warp lightning vortex down, I was thinking about it more from a practical, how am I going to deploy this list on a table and move forwards and then take objectives and hold things and, physically have the units I needed. And so I went through a stage of, writing this with lots of Arconauts and Aetherwings and stuff. And what held me back was a practical perspective of, one, where do you get your Aetherwings from? And two is like I would have to build and pay more frigates and stuff to play a list like this. But because Aetherwings is unfortunately not something you can just go out and buy.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They're expensive, right? They really are. So, I have converted mine, but they weren't any cheaper. I didn't like doing that. Oh, I'll just stick some fish on a base, which I've seen. But, no offense particularly meant, but I made mine out of an equally expensive kit, but. That's how I like the allies when they all match, and I thought that they, obviously they're just like drones. They come out from the boat, how my imagination sort of led to it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen your conversions. They are cool conversions.
Thank you.
But it's really they're really cool conversions, and no, there's something I really like to see that, because if I was to put Aetherwings in, I wouldn't. First of all, it's not easy just to get the normal Aetherwings. But second of all, I wouldn't be happy with that because I want to do my own conversions. In fact, I have played around with bits and that, trying to do some conversions, and I even went to the stage of like, right, okay, I've got an idea of how I'm going to make it, but it relied on using the deck sweeper, and that was like the tail.
Okay, yeah.
But so I tried duplicating it because getting lots of deck sweeper bits isn't easy either, and it just didn't duplicate very well.
That's a really cool idea, though. That's really, that would be really sweet. I like that, like peacock sort of size tail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic, that.
So, no, it's a perspective. To come back to my original point, is that the perspective of this is how to build a list in this fashion is something that speaks to me, that I quite like. How do you feel about this list, Max?
There's too many Arconauts. No, I love the amount of ships of not just gun holders, because these are frigates in ironclads. This is just an awesome army to see. I think it's just that's what you expect. KO, and they show up with boats and boats and boats. The frigate, outside of the Iron Sky Attack Squadron, I don't rate it because it's just the shooting is similar to a gun holder, but it's so much more expensive. And the stupid 10 people fly high rule, that's one unit, but I can't even stick a hero in it with the unit. That's just frustrating. Yeah, and the Enderworks are not.
They're awful.
But
two of them's damage stats is comparable to an ironclad, though, right? And we all like an ironclad.
Yeah, I love my ironclad, and I know what the damage output of an ironclad is. It's just a frigate with basically the normal gun is just a gun holder gun with more range, and that's what stops me from building my 2 frigates I have.
I mean, the normal gun is better than a gun holder gun. There, it's got more range and stuff.
It's got more range, but fly high. Do I need 24? 18 is enough if I can fly high. But I'd be interested to see this work in Mornar, where the ships can run and still shoot first turn.
Yeah.
Obviously, you cannot do the Ironclad deploy the 20 Arcanaut, but you can still do, because the Ironclad can do a pre-game move in Mornar. And the Navigator, then you get the whole of, I'm controlling the board with all these Arcanauts. You want to charge me? I'm going to halve your charge and play that movement shenanigan game that you're already playing with the Navigator having the move of the flying monster, and then you're having his charge, and that'd be interesting. And and
I will say that Mornar I really like. I thought the the list that won whatever event it was, that really did make me think a lot about them, and I thought that was one of the really good ones that I'd seen.
Sean Tubman in
That's the one. That's the one.
in New Zealand.
I really, really enjoyed his talk about that on the Honest Wargamer as well.
Well, he talked about it on this show.
Did he as well? Yeah. I didn't catch that one.
Throwing that out.
Well, it was a much better talk about it, honestly.
Yeah. You should watch your back.
Obviously,
that list was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm not painting another 30 Arcanauts, so 10 maybe.
Yeah, I've only played this with proxies, so.
It's funny because the thing that holds me back is the Aetherwings and Frigates. I've got the Arcanauts. I've got them painted there. There's no problem there for me.
No.
I mean,
I need a third frigate, but I have the Aetherwings, or like the real Aetherwings by now.
Yeah, okay.
But
it's interesting you said about playing this in more now. I guess if you did, you'd kind of really want to have two navigators.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a cool list. I don't know what I would change about it if I was to run it, because 3 units of Aetherwings is nice, so I don't really think I want to drop
and it's
one.
enough to actually screen out your entire army.
Yeah, because
Pretty
I think when I tried playing with them myself, I only had 2 units, and I felt like, I wanted a third.
You can get away with it with 2 units as low, and then I wouldn't bother with 1 probably.
1 is like a token, like I filled out some points, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's move on to one of the second list we've got to look at, and then these are all variations on our theme. First of all, first question: is this the one we're going to see next week on the battle?
No.
Battle? No.
This one is. Oh, sorry, yeah. Yes.
This is the one.
Yes.
This is the one.
Oh.
Okay, so
That's an approving.
I want to see if I can correctly guess the reason why this is the one that's chosen. Is it because it's got a wider selection of models in it? And because you've got the models.
Yeah, he's got enough Arcanauts for this.
You can have enough Arcanauts.
No, paint aside, this is the list I've played the most. This is the list I've played with slight hero variations. This is a list me and Jim have played a lot. I've played this in a one-day. I won all my games. I think this is my current favorite list, but the third one we'll move on is tempting me a lot right now. So yeah, I like this a lot.
Let's look at the list here. We have again Barrack Zilfin, 1990 points now, so maybe a triumph in there. 134 wounds. Is that more than the last one? I can't remember.
2 more, but similar.
2 more, but 1 drop more. 9 drops. So we have the same hero setup: Navigator and Chemist. We have 2 times 10 Arcanauts, then 2 Frigates, all in the Iron Sky Attack Squadron, so only 2 of each. 3 units of free Aetherwings again, and now we introduced 2 units of 10 Thunderers, all rifles, and then the Ironclad, still with the Buoyancy 8 and Sky Cannon. So I read this as, Iron Sky Attack Squadron, obviously Arcanauts inside the Frigates, and instead of the 20-man unit, you have 2 units of 10 Thunderers in the Ironclad, which helps with deploying a 10-man unit on one side and then moving on elsewhere, and still having the option to deploy more units over there. Why all rifles on the Thunderers?
Rain. I play this as sort of default plan. Standing back a little bit. Again, often high drop, often given turn 1, often have to play quite cautiously to start with. Seeing me alpha in or doing anything crazy. So yeah, I love the range on them. It's simple as that. I think the damage is comparable anyway, really. So I don't see me ever doing the other thing really, just because of the range and how it cuts down my options there really. So yeah.
you could make an argument for a fumigator once you deploy them to get a -1 to be hit, to be with the chemist, another -1 to be hit. So to have that one unit to be a bit more like defensive, holding on a objective a while longer with a -2 to be hit.
Cool. What's the range on that? Shorter, right?
3 inches. The
shooting.
shooting, yeah, 9 inches.
Short, yeah. Okay, cool. Just checking I hadn't done something silly because that did sound really good.
It's a really good defensive thing, but it's only in melee as well. First of all,
yeah.
-2 to hit, and also if we're going to talk about the rumors, maybe you can't be -2 to hit with AOS 3.
Well, if we talk about rumors, then there's a lot of things that don't work. For example, the battalion.
The battalion, yeah. The battalion, potentially, yeah, based on the rumors, who knows? So I prefer this list to the first one. The Thunderers gives it a little bit more poke, and the extra range is helpful.
Yeah.
We've talked about, in previous shows, a fair bit about the choice between 1 unit of 20 Thunders and 2 units of 10 with the buoyancy aid. And I know, Max, you've used 1 unit of 20 in the past, but Con's quite a big fan of 1 unit of 20. We've interviewed Dave Kane in the past, and he was using 2 units of 10 in Baratnar. I quite rate the 2 units of 10 from a flexibility point of view. We mentioned about how you can get one out and then you can leave one in the boat, or you can you can also get them both out, but you put your ship sideways onto the enemy rather than facing them, and then you can get the one out one side, one out the other side, and they're actually almost 18 inches apart. You can get onto 2 different objectives doing that. Which is quite cool.
I agree on the flexibility. For me, it always was the drops. And 20 you can buff easily, and the special weapons in 20 just make so much more damage once they're out of the boat.
I think as far as... Oh, sorry, Richard, were you going to say something?
It's good discussion, isn't it, between the two, you brought up the points that I like, so I'd only be echoing them. Yes, I like 2 10s, I like to be able to maybe bring one out. Do exactly what you just said there about controlling 2 objectives, comfortably do that. That's happened lots, the cooldowns that I'm talking about, it allows me, a few more options of stuff like that, it does allow me to jump out 2 lots, maybe grab 2 objectives. Really like that. I like being able to shoot a unit of 10 and then see what's happened, and then shoot the other unit, right? There's not always a target to go around. I'm going to shoot those 20 into whatever, and no one likes splitting fire, right? So I just really like that, particularly if I'm playing some sort of cautious start to the game where the Aetherwings have done their thing and I'm off on a flank, and I blew a cooldown on one of them to make sure something dies. Maybe I waste them early. I have the cooldown for reroll wounds later on in the game. I use it on one, not another one. So I really like having the 2 10s, to be honest. It's always been good for me. I've never thought I wish I had a 20, to be honest. And even better now that the chemist could buff both those units, right? If I needed to alpha, the chemist could give 1 reroll 1s, and they could spend the gold on the other one to reroll wounds. So I could sort of do it if I needed to. So I don't care about drops. So
the thing is, as soon as you make the decision, if you don't care about drops, it opens up so many options in lists. So many. It's crazy, really. I was going to say something about this. I can't remember what it was now at all. Richie, you mentioned that both you and James have played this. So James, what are your feelings on this, James? Is there anything we've missed that's really obvious, or if you've got some, what are your key takeaways from like the way you play it and stuff?
It's more about ball control, playing the mission. It has more versatility, I think, than the Vortex. Like, if you played against this list, I think it can play anybody. It can go first in any mission. It can go second in any mission. I think the Arcanauts do a lot of work. The Aetherwings do a lot of work. The Thunderers and the 18-inch do a lot of damage. People don't realise just how much damage they do to like little units. They jump out and just blow up. Not much more to add, really, other than the fact that because this is our favourite list. This is probably where if it was a tournament tomorrow, I would take this. I think with the view to trying to win. The Chemist has got even better because of the new gold triumphs. Like we had this list before. He's even better now. So that makes the argument, like to Richie's point, the 210s now is even better. Because I super worry about the battle shock on a unit 20, even with the spells around,
and then you use new gold, makes where you make your bravery worse when you use the gold and stuff. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, you don't have a lot of CP in this army. Lumineth would battle shock them off the table. I think with the various debuffs and 2 CP expenditure, they would get you turn 2 if you're a unit 20. But no, not much more to add, really.
You dropped before when we talked about Aetherwings, Jim, right? I guess you probably played against me with them more. What would you say about having the 3 hits of Aetherwings?
Yeah, the 3 Aetherwings are like not key to the list, but they're like a huge part of being successful. You push out, you stop. You stop a lot of alphas, you stop a lot of spell rages, you stop a lot of people getting in range of the boats, they stop the people getting on your objectives, because what me and Ritchie sometimes like to do is put the 2 frigates on the objectives with 10 Arcanauts behind the boat for the battalion. And then the Aetherwings out in front, so the Aetherwings push to the front of the objective. So if you charge them, you've still got 11 of it behind, so you can get in the boat and then fly high away because of the battalion. So that's a really key thing to objective denial early on. So I think that's a big part of what the list can do because of the Aetherwings, and having 3 allows you to do it on 3 objectives, of course. Obviously, you can't do it with the Ironclad, but the Ironclad can just sit on its own objective. So I think that's a really key thing to it as well.
Yeah.
Another thing with the first list that we discussed and the option of having a admiral is just the battle shock immunity that he brings, which would be interesting for the 20 man unit, obviously.
I think if you're running 20, there's a strong argument for an admiral, isn't there? Like you're probably doing that just to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're investing in that's your humming unit, and you're worried about battle shock, then you just take an admiral, don't you? And then the question,
keep your CP there, don't you?
Or the Iron Sky command.
You do need your CP, but his bubble is just bigger, right? It covers everything in the boat. Because the problem is when you get hit by the AoE spells, it hits everything in the boat. So it's not just the Thunderers, is it? It's going to be the other stuff. But yeah, he's good. But I like the Chemist and Navigator is too good to take out, so you'd have to go to 3 heroes. I'm like, So I think these 2 is probably the limit.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing about both of these lists is 2 heroes. How do you feel about this style, or these style of lists playing on something like Places of Arcane Power?
Favorite.
Do you feel having obviously having 3 and lower drop is infinitely better?
Having a dirigible suit
game still.
The dirigible suit helps a lot with that because you can just fly onto one.
Yeah. I shoot theirs, right? That's my game plan of that. I make sure their ones die. I think
you just win them later on, don't you? You kill theirs, and then you get onto it when you take control and hope that you've got 3 turns of scoring.
Well, that's the thing. You move the boat there, you're not scoring. To get out of the boat, they're not scoring because it's a setup. So you start scoring the 3rd round if things go wrong. And then
you could use your Zilfin cooldown, right? Get out. Oh no, you can't.
Yeah,
Almost
you could.
Because it's still set up.
It's still set up, but they, they cannot.
Yeah.
Well, you save one turn basically. But
Yeah.
They can deploy in the ship. Get out. You could. Oh no, that's not a move. No, never mind.
Yeah.
That battle plan is just bad for KO because everything's either set up
takes you 2 turns, right? But it takes you 2 turns, but you don't mind because if you are doing that, and by turn 3 they're down, then you can move on to it. You've won anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no panic. You just have to be mindful that the earliest is turn 3.
Unless they have a like a Morathi they can put on 2. And just
that's just a nightmare.
score for 3 turns or have like
absolutely shocking mission.
A Mega Guardian that's gonna sit there for 2 rounds.
Maybe on Thursday you should play Paces of Arcane Power.
Oh. Keep it in mind. Keep it in mind.
For that.
Are you guys promoting a bad game for KO?
Well, I think it'll be an interesting game for KO players to watch. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't think there's much interest for KO players to just watch you steamroll something.
No, we're going to make sure they're challenged. Absolutely. Guys, I hate that mission though. That's a mission that's just like not on the list of missions to play because it's poor, really poor.
I must say, I played that battle plan. I think maybe 8 times recently with my zone list, and I think I've won each one of them.
Brilliant.
Because by now it's just like you need to have the chemist outside. He's gonna run here. The other one's gonna run here, and the other one's gonna charge someone who's on the objective to get onto it and kill him. And then you can manage. But it's just, it's not a great battle plan.
No.
But yeah,
I love it. Just as a flip side.
Yeah, you just put your stone horn on it.
Love it.
Stone horns or gargants. Although I won against Mega Gargants on that one.
Yeah, I've seen Tom absolutely drop it as well and lose with 4 Stonehorn heroes on that one as well. Yeah,
Just to be the army.
I just want to clarify when Max said he won against Mega Gargants in place of Arcane Power, it was because they didn't completely just change the way it scored every 5 minutes.
Yes. They didn't play the.
They didn't completely prevent you scoring at all.
Honourable, that's what that is. Honourable.
Yeah, no, they only did that in their turn.
Yeah.
To switch between, so the Mancrers could score.
Like honourable people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be played, really. Okay, so let's look at well, first of all, let's just remind everyone that if you want to see how this list plays, then Thursday night, go to your channel, Just Play.
Yeah.
The link's in the description. And you can watch it play live or against a as yet undecided opponent and battle plan. Which,
well, we know the opponent.
Tune in to find out.
We don't know the army.
Top opponents. So we'll talk you through loads of it as well. We touched on some of it here, but you'll see situations come up in the game, and hopefully it'll be of use to anybody. So.
But yeah, it'd certainly be interesting to see as a different style of list playing. Let's look at the.
Hey, can I say, right? Isn't it boss when you watch KO like battle reports, or you watch a KO match in a tournament, and it's like turn 1, the army can go anywhere you want, and you're like, oh yes, I know what I'm doing here. This is it. And then they pick the boats up and put them somewhere mad, and you're like, oh my, what's going on?
Why did they put it there?
I watched one though, right, and they were getting out the boat wrong, so they were like, I don't know if it was like they were getting out with the Iron Sky Attack Squadron after deep striking or something. I don't know what they were doing. I'm like, what is he doing here? What?
I think was it a live stream?
It was a live stream, yeah. It was Honest Wargamer TTS tournament.
I watched the same one and I was like, no, they can't do that.
Yeah. I watched the first bit. I was like, oh my God, what's he doing here? And then I seen all those guys get out. I was like, okay, stop watching this one. So, yeah. Unfortunately, this guy's got the rules wrong. And I have no diss on the guy. Lots of people have got the rules wrong, about getting out of boat, haven't they? So, which I'm sure you guys have covered to death on this. But yeah.
Let's look at the list that's tempting you then.
Come on.
So this is...
look at that.
2,000 points, slightly less wounds, 123, 8 drops. you've got a chemist with collector. We all know how much Kron likes that.
yeah.
Staff of ocular optimization, and then another chemist with spell in the bottle. Then a navigator with voidstone orb. 2 times 10 Arcanauts, 2 frigates, 15 thunderers with rifles, 2 units of free Aetherwings, ironclad with buoyancy aid, an attack squadron, and warp lightning vortex. Woo! So this feels like a cross between your style of list and like the standard sort of KO warp lightning vortex list, because but you're not using Iron Sky Command, but you still got the 3 heroes, and you obviously got the warp lightning vortex. You've already got the ironclad anyway that you had in your other list. But you're keeping an attack squadron to get the movement shenanigans in there as well.
Yeah.
And the Aetherwings, of course, because you're high drops and they help. So this is really tempting you. So what? The first question is, if this is really tempting you, why aren't you doing it?
Such how good warp lightning vortex is, right? So here's like the thought trains that's got me onto this. A lot of this actually, Jim has sent me at least something close to this in some ways. He certainly he was interested in taking the warp lightning vortex a lot more than me. He was definitely looking at the results and thinking like, I like warp lightning vortex. We should have warp lightning vortex. Why haven't we got warp lightning vortex? And he's posted some lists to me that are very similar to this. I don't think exactly the same, but same gist, right? How we get warp lightning vortex in? How do we do both? That's his thought. How do we do what we want to do while still taking warp lightning vortex? Now, for me, it goes back to the chemist getting better again, right? Like once the chemist got even better, and I think this is a KO podcast, right? Everyone's here for the tiny details, and I think it's just that little push up. Wow, I think it's made them like really, really good. So yeah, that's what made me think even more and look at this again. And of course, right, the collector trick that your man loves, right? Like it's great, right? Get all these. Still got me navigator, still got me voidstone orb of love. While getting the spell on the bottle as well. Not buying loads of extra battalions to get that far down. It's just a sweet trick you can do in Zilfin, isn't it? So, yeah, I feel like I've still got everything I want. It feels good buying Thunders at 15 because, I'm not missing out on a max unit discount. So you feel like, oh, it's fine. I can buy 15. It's okay. It's horrible taking the buoyancy aid at that number.
Yes, I was waiting to say that. I hate it.
Absolutely, it's so painful.
Look for those 2 models.
Why can they not go in the frigates? So it's it's really annoying.
I mean, there's the old trick of being under strength unit, taking 14 thunderers.
Yes, because only really
it's too dirty, right?
It just feels wrong.
It does, doesn't it? So when we were going to Masters when we were thinking about going to UK Masters last year, Zinch Flamers was just going to be like the dominant list, right? Me and Jim were going to take Zinch Flamers probably. And JP was going, and he was probably going to be playing OBR. So there's 3 of us, in the sort of the team chat for Masters. And he was like, I'm taking unit to 19 more tech guards, so the flamer just don't get +2 to hit. And I'm like, I said it to him, like I said, JP, you need to be taking 19, really, don't you? Like, and he's like, yeah, I suppose we can do that. Yeah, is that right? It's just awful, isn't it? So
it's gamey, isn't it?
Yeah, I after coming to that conclusion, I think I'd just say in my tournaments now, I might say no on the strength unit, So the rule, it's meant to be there because you don't own them, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. Like, there's a guy called Matt that we've had on the show a few times, and he's really against it. But Kron, obviously, he won with the old book using 14 Thunderers in a frigate.
Yeah.
So we've got a breadth of opinions here on Aethercast about it, and I'm always going back and forth on it because it's like 14. Like, yeah, the navigator doesn't need to go in the boat. He can do his thing from 36 inches away. It's like the chemist who spend the bottle obviously does need to, and then the other chemist he probably doesn't need to go in a boat, does he?
You just stand on an objective and do nothing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you could do it, and then it's like, well, but then should you?
It's a no for me, but
Yeah.
it's the rules. Would never begrudge anyone doing it, obviously. So, except that I think I wouldn't allow it in my event. After thinking about that last year, I haven't run a tournament since then. But yeah,
it's certainly something to consider because if you practice playing a list like that, and it's key to your list that you've got 14, and then you go to an event, and there's like you don't read the pack from it, they're like, no, you can't take on the strength units, or if you just read it and you're like, well, the list I practiced, like, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's tough, isn't it? Yeah, you know, obviously, unfortunately, that's you should read your tournament pack, right? So
yeah, but even if you have read the tournament pack, it's like, well, you've been playing that list at other events and practiced it and stuff, and then all of a sudden, I've got to play a different list at this tournament.
Yeah,
but
I mean, people hate comp, don't they?
So, Tom, what were you trying to say there?
Just saying, you try and find Damned and get that D3 Mortals and kill one of you guys off.
Yeah, well, the trouble is, you want to start them in the boat, though, don't you? So that's the trouble.
Sure.
But I mean, the thing is, though, I mean, it's buoyancy aid, and then it's like, well, you could take battle ram, which is pretty good. You haven't, and then it's you've got to be really aggressive with your ironclad then.
Well, you could even take
the
+2 wounds because you have no in all these lists. There's no healing the boats.
Yeah,
so +2 wounds, 20 wounds on a 3+. It's not bad.
Yeah, we just found in the end, we just weren't using it that much. From having plenty of healing, it just wasn't coming up for us. Jim, was it enough? No.
No one ever targets the boats anyway, because you could 3-up rerollable, or you could 4-up rerollable your frigate, and like people just target stuff inside, like with spells and like with charges and mortal wound charges, that kind of stuff. We just felt like there's rarely ever a time that we mass healed the boats and it mattered. Like the fly high is the only thing you worry about, right? Like if I go below the threshold and I can't heal, but after about turn 2, I don't need fly high too much. So if it happens, I'm not overly like worried about it. But obviously, you try and keep it.
It's interesting because I find in my matches often people try to like stop the boat from flying high because it's tucked in a corner, and nowadays there's a lot of mortal wounds flying about.
Yeah.
So I have a gun holder next to it, but I always keep forgetting that rule that he can shrug wounds.
Yeah.
And then it's handy when he's down to 8 wounds, 7 wounds, and just say, okay, I heal 3 with the Ender Master, D3 with the one inside, another 4 pluses on all these Ender and riggers I have around. Oh yeah, cool. I'm back to 18 wounds.
That's good, isn't it? Right?
Everything you've just done was
yeah. So why do it?
Because people don't know.
What's your opponent doing there? It's great. It's great. It gives you that option. I love it. I think it's the healing is it's good. Healing's hard to be good in Age of Sigmar, isn't it? It's so rare. It's good. I think in this it's pretty damn close. I think Glutos's one is good enough, and previous to that was like pretty good in old Sylvaneth, where you could do like the D6 one and the 2D3 with Alariel, so it was pretty good then. But it's it's rare that healing's good. I
mean, you could spell on a bottle a Life Swarm, but that's pushing it. No, but what I find is it allows you to put the ironclad somewhere isolated, and it can weather a charge. Where people run into it and charge it, because I always keep my Ender Master behind it, like within an inch, and then it's just okay. He'll back up, go somewhere else.
Because he does the fixed 3. The guy.
He does the straight 3. Yeah.
I love the suit guy.
Plus the ironclad heals itself 1 wound, so it's not true. There is healing in this list. All the boats heal themselves 1
wound.
Yeah.
Which is 5 wounds over a game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, the token 1 wound healing is it's nice, but it's very rarely going to make a difference, isn't it? But,
Yeah.
Well, it could be that 6 or 7 wounds for fly high.
Could be. Yeah. And then the other option that you could, like, if you went down to 14, you could have the last word, which.
Nah, I don't.
But
It's Ram or Ram for me is the one you want if you can not take buoyancy aid.
The last word is just because it's only the main gun that's annoying, and it's not the one that does most damage. If it would be everything.
So look, I like this. I've got the Warp Lightning Vortex, or I've got Darkfire Demon Rift, right? I've wrote Warp Lightning Vortex, but is it Darkfire Demon Rift?
Darkfire it's great against, like, it's fantastic against Lumineth.
Yeah.
Because you do 15 mortal wounds to every unit.
Yeah. Do you think we need the help against Lumineth though, Max?
No, I played it in my first game against Lumineth just to try it out, and I deleted the army in 2 turns just with that, because I gave away the priority to 2 and then just moved it across the entire army again, and that was game.
Yeah.
I like it, but I would not choose it for a tournament list, because against units that don't have that many casters or are relying on like 1 or 2 casters, it's not doing as much. And then you spend a battalion, an artifact, the cost for the spell on a matchup against Idoneth Deepkin where it's doing D3 mortal wounds.
Agree.
We have a phrase that's almost becoming a catchphrase on the show, which is situationally good.
Yeah.
Whereas the Warp Lightning Vortex is always good.
Always good because it stops running, and maybe it's even the better part of the vortex. It's not the mortal wounds are cool, but as we said, I'm big at rolling 1s on those. But it's just the no run which can prevent an opponent from getting onto your objective.
Well.
For me,
no fly.
Always good because it has to be respected. Like that's it for me. I put it in my list. They've got to think about it. They've forced people to do things wrong, keep things out of range.
Absolutely,
it's amazing for that.
Because
messes with the deployment, it messes with their head. And if it's just something you pull out like turn 3 without a fly high, just boom, here on the objective. Oh, you're sitting on this objective with your 30, I don't know what. Okay, I'll just put this on top and you stay there.
Have you guys thought about using Mork's Mighty Mushroom instead?
Yes, I did. And I didn't. It was quick.
Same. I looked at it. I liked it, and then I said, "Nah, Vortex is."
I don't think it's the right.
Situationally good again, right? Good against some targets, but
I don't think it's right in this meta. But if there were to be a meta where hordes come back, I think rolling a dice for every model within 8 on a 5/6 mortal wounds, that could be massive, right? Like if your Gits, like that would just be that. I mean, that would just decimate you. But then the flip side is that you can play against really low model count armies and it doesn't do anything. So I suppose it's situational.
No, there's similar options as well that do that roll for every model type thing as well. Like, I mean, Purple Sun, you fly over a unit and then you roll for every model in the unit, and then there's Lane, which is interesting because wounds.
With the mushroom, it's not every model in a unit; it's every model within 8. So I think it's like a 66 range or whatever. But if you've got the Zilfin move, then you can stick it right in the middle of someone's army, and they've got 100 models, and they're all within range. That's like 33 mortal wounds on average. That's devastating.
Yeah, but you have to roll for your own though.
Well, yeah, but it's you Zilfin move, and then you stick it in the middle of their army. It doesn't move, so they have to move out.
But then you roll your 66, and you're like, ooh.
66 and get an 8.
You could just get 6.
I think the strength of the vortex. But the vortex strength is that it doesn't come back on you at all. You drop it, and you're safe. Purple Sun comes back on you. Geminids comes back on you. Mushroom kills your own guys.
Mushroom doesn't move though. Mushroom doesn't move. So once it's down, it's down.
Yeah, but you only need to hit your boys once, you know.
Yeah.
True.
But yeah, it's. I mean, that's the shape of Vortex, isn't it? It doesn't move. It comes down, stuck.
Yeah.
It can still hurt your own guys. You're in charge into it.
It can.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Like, I really need to kill this guy. I'll charge inside. Boom.
I mean,
blew up my own unit.
It's one of the things I love about KO is there's so many options, and then this one artifact just gives loads of. I've gone through every Ender spell.
Yep.
In the game, and I'm also now looking at like, bound shards of Valgar or whatever you pronounce, because it's like, well, my opponent doesn't get a chance to move it with the bound, and there's no extra points, and that's like half move, and your opponent.
It's good.
Yeah. So there's so many options, and there's just going to keep being options with spelling a bottle.
There's a lot of movement options. You know, the what's it called? Realm Scourge Rupture in Monar with the staff. You like quarter a move your opponent.
Yeah.
And half charge. Like he's not getting into your boat. And stuff like that.
But,
it's fun.
There's an interesting thing about spelling the bottle though, which kind of makes you like, you're like, okay, in my first turn, I'm gonna fly high in my hero phase, put the spell out, and then that means you've used your hero phase fly high. So, like, this list is tempting you. If you were doing the other lists, how often would you actually be using that hero phase fly high turn one?
Oh, like never.
Yeah.
Yeah, never.
Like, is that a key consideration for you then? That if you take this list, it's going to pretty much be forcing you to do it turn one, rather than let you save that hero phase fly high for later in the game when it might be more useful for getting objectives.
A lot of discipline to your play there, isn't there? Really, you know, you have to. Are you comfortable that they have spent their deployments doing what they needed to about Warp Lightning Vortex? Have they thought I'm going to do that because it's in my list? They've thought he's going to go. You know, can I let him go first? What if he Warp Lightning Vortexes me? You know, you've got to be happy that all that has happened, and then maybe just get on with my normal plan and not do it, right? So, but then maybe it's too tempting, right? You know, you go to a tournament and you got to get 5 wins, and some of them are not going to be against people who are on the same level as you, and you just need to capitalize on them sometimes, right? You know, sometimes someone's going to do something that's going to be bad, you know, and I'm just gonna go first. You know, they're going to let me go first. I'm going to choose to go first. I'm going to do Warp Lightning Vortex. They're going to kill loads of their army, you know, and we'll just get that game, you know, in the bag, right? You know, so yeah, I hope that explains it. You know, I think you just got to be happy maybe that it's done all these other things to them in their mind and their deployments and mess with their game plan enough that I can just then quite happily carry on with mine and have that Warp Lightning Vortex for a bit later on, maybe.
Okay, so
I really rate having that cooldown to steal objectives later. Like that's it. Basically, it's it for me. You know, when I play people who know everything that Kharadron do, know how I get objectives, know, you know, that just get on them, sit on them, score against me, you know, and put me under the cosh. Like I think, I think you need them. You need that, and you need the attack squadron to get those objectives back off people. Like so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that you see KO players tabling their opponents and then losing the game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I know Kron's done it. We mentioned it earlier. Like he's done it in this tournament that he's at this weekend. But I know he's done it in the past as well. I've seen people on Facebook saying, like, "Oh, I tabled my opponent, but I didn't. I lost the game, but at least I tabled my opponent." But would you have rather won the game? It's we've spoken about people learning how to play against KO. Once people start realizing, like, you sit on objectives, keep a model within 3 inches of the set, like of the objectives, the center of it, and then that means you can't fly high onto it. It's huge.
And then when you start knowing about, stopping the attack squadron, stopping the deep strike, making sure that there's no space even to go within 3 onto it, like it gets super hard for you because we're no good at holding them, right? Like we're really bad at holding objectives. It's not a good army to keep hold of one for a long time and defend it, right? So, I might if I blow cooldown, steal an objective, then get to double them, like. Do just end the game, and I'm not talking about killing models. I've played where I've blew cooldowns to steal someone's home objective, on a 4.1, and then won the priority roll and scored it again. And like it's hard to come back from that, right? In games, especially once I'm shooting them twice and I've scored 8+ points. It's just. Really, really tough for people to answer. So,
we chatted with Phil McGuinness about ages ago now. I think it was and he was using attack squad, and he just, I think it must have been on Better Part Valor. Battle for the Past. Sorry, both begin with B. And just getting that 4 points, it's huge. And people don't necessarily even expect it. Like, you do it with both units of Arcanauts, like both frigates. It's 20 models under an objective.
Yeah.
That's not insignificant.
No.
So
it's just key having the position right. You've got a frigate, and what do we move 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 and 14 with the one with the with the omniscope. So you got the omniscope one moving 14. It's auto running. That's 20. They're getting out within 6. You're putting your boat on the board, right? And then you're measuring, aren't you? What objectives is it in range of? Keep as many as I can, within 26 of it or whatever. And all of a sudden, I'm like, gone. And I've done, 10 models on an objective, 3 away from the enemy, right? It's like, so good.
Yep.
Definitely.
And does your opponent know that? Even if you tell them?
They know
it, but are they seeing that line? Are they seeing, I'm seeing that line, I'm setting up for it, right? But are they seeing that, God, he's threatening my objective all the way over there with 10 models going into terrain on a 3+ with a reroll, And they might not be right.
Because what they've got to do is, A, see that distance is passable, and also see the fact that a unit that isn't even on the table.
Yeah.
It's like sitting on a, off the table because it's inside the boat. Is the thing that will cross that distance as well.
Yeah.
And
then a double, and then it scores me at twice, and maybe end the game. So
I don't know. This whole conversation.
All my lists, I think, are better at winning games against people who probably know what we do to some degree. Or at least it's like even harder to stop us doing the objective stealing in these ones. So
this whole conversation is just making me think, why haven't I painted my frigate yet?
Same.
I think frigates are great, honestly. Like, I was surprised to I was surprised to them compared to gun haulers. Really, I compare 2 to 1 ironclad. That's my way of comparing them. Really, look how many wounds there is there. A lot more wounds. Obviously, the saves are different. There's loads of subtle differences, but they're the things that I look at. Still loads of wounds. I've still got 8 carbide shots. I've got 2d6 shots averaging 7, so averaging 1 more than the one. Yes, I haven't got torps. Yes, I don't have this one big thing that's immovable, So they're not completely comparable, but that's more my mindset on them, you see. So I like frigates, and it's done me well enough so far. I think the first tournament I'll go to, I'm going to take Kharadron because I just love them. So as long as nothing's changed too bad and they're still playable, then I can't wait to get out there with this list or the previous one. So
yeah,
I'd play this one Thursday maybe, but I don't have a Warp Lightning Vortex. I want to make one, that are like World War II sea mines.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I've been working on today. Is mine, because up until now the few games I have been managed to get in with coronavirus, and that I've been borrowing one, but I've been I'm making like you can't see it because I'm like my screen is really small, but it's like an anchor with a chain and then a balloon.
Sniff, man.
The Orc tractor cannon.
Yeah.
Like it's shooting the lightning. So yeah, I'm gonna spray them tomorrow. It's cool. But yeah, I think we've covered your list. We've talked about your general thoughts on things. So I think we can sort of wrap up the show now. Just lastly, remind everyone that if you want to see not this list in action, then you can check it out on your channel on Thursday. What time is it? What time do you start?
7 p.m. GMT, UK, whatever. Yeah,
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. So 7 p.m., 8 p.m. if you're in Europe, and if you're somewhere else, then you can work that out. YouTube, if you click on the video, then YouTube will tell you what time it starts. So that would be cool. I'm going to be watching, so you can chat to me at the very least. And Max, I assume you'll be watching as well, Max.
I'm expecting like smoke coming off you. Just oh my god, I'm missing. Oh my god.
Yeah. All I know is that there'll be smoke coming off my fiance. Because it will be, she won't be happy that I'm watching the Power Report for 3 hours, but lastly, one other reminder is Aethercast dice are on pre-order still until the 9th of May. So
guys,
Tom?
I am in love. I'm in love with the gold ones. The gold ones look unbelievable. Like you sent me the link, and I was like, "Oh, classic KO dice or whatever." Clicked on it, I was like, "Bang, instant buy!" Like they were unbelievable. Like everyone needs to buy them, and then that way we can be like dice pros.
I'm such a miserable, boring dice roller, me. So I'm so sorry.
That's one thing I did notice about the battle cross. They're all just white dice.
Yeah, I know.
Sort that out.
We need the black. Right now with our setup, we need the black pips to make it stand out. You see, so it's just like a simple one. But, yeah.
I'm in discussions with Ritchie at the moment because I feel like people want to get in touch with us, and I've seen with another battle report they feature other people's dice, like club dice and stuff, in discussions because I want to use them and they don't have black pips. So I mean those are ongoing. I want to use the Aethercast ones on when I start playing, which is next season.
Yeah,
so
cool.
I'm just excited for them.
Surprised you don't have any Just Play dice.
I know, right?
For the future.
Yeah, I know, isn't it? It's funny. I only roll grey and green dice myself, but yeah.
Well, project for the future. Just Play dice, obviously.
Your ones are really nice.
Yeah,
I agree. Very tempting. They're always tempting, these dice. Then I think I'm just going to go back to rolling my boring D6.
The other thing is, there's only so many dice you need, isn't there?
But you collect dice.
Yeah, exactly right. That's why you should buy
the
them.
amount of dice I have and the amount of dice I use is quite different.
Yeah, it's it, right? Enjoy the show, buy the dice, show the support, and you've got them like in the collection. It's just boss, because I love seeing people's dice collections, all the different ones and what they're all from, and it is cool. Like,
I love giving also at tournaments, like give out your dice to your opponent. Yeah. It's a nice gesture, and you get something back, and then you meet someone else from that team, and he's like, "Yeah, I got your dice already." Like, I'll roll this for priority.
Definitely.
No one offers me dice because they see what I've got to give back, and just like, I'll keep this.
I get a bit of cracker.
No, I mean, my first tournament I ever went to, someone gave me dice, and I still use them. I use those. They're like because the ones that you only have one or two of, they're like your special ones that you use for keeping score, or command points, or whatever, aren't they? or roll
Yeah,
list, as they're called. So, but yeah, let's wrap up the show because it's nearly 3 hours now. So, yeah. And I think we've barely scratched the surface and talking about KO because we've only talked about like your lists and stuff. But oh well, maybe another time or something. But thank you guys for coming on. Been a pleasure to have you, Max. As always, great to have you on the show as well. My steadfast Felix to my Great Trek.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
I'm Felix.
Yes,
I'm Felix in this relationship. We'll have to talk about this.
Yeah, sorry, mate. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. And if you like the show, please hit like and subscribe. Yeah, and see you again soon, Skyfarers. Goodbye.
See you soon, everyone.